Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. My medicine cauldron can automatically pill refining. Chapter 41. Little monkey, go, clean up this big guy, and be careful with your hands. This fairy wants to train him into a pet. Before the beautiful woman finished speaking, Vajra moved, leaving a deep hole under her feet, and disappeared in place. The speed was too fast. Shu Yufan didn't even see clearly. In the blink of an eye, Vajra had arrived in front of the Monkey King. It raised its palm, which was more than twice as big as before, and slapped it down on the Monkey King. At this moment, the Monkey King took out a weapon out of nowhere and slammed it on Vajra's palm. Boom! The air exploded, dust flew up, and the surrounding trees were shattered by the rippling air waves. Shu Yufan was also backed back again and again by the blast of the air wave. This strike is stronger than the previous one. The dust dissipated, the corner of the Monkey King's mouth was bleeding, and his left hand was hanging limply, apparently seriously injured. As for Vajra, a long gash was cut on his arm, and the bright red blood flowed out. But to Shu Yufan's surprise, the weapon held by the Monkey King's right hand was unscathed. Shu Yufan stared fixedly, suddenly stunned. The Monkey King held a stick in his hand. Shu Yufan wiped his eyes. That's right, it is indeed a stick. Is this Sun Wukong's golden cudgel? Shu Yufan was full of question marks. Brother Monkey, have you time traveled too? Xiaojin, the stick in its hand, get it here. Shu Yufan shouted loudly. Vajra heard and nodded. Root block, 2 Foundation Establishment realm monsters are entangled again. Shu Yufan couldn't see who was who at all. They are all monsters who cultivate their physique and are good at strength, and they don't know much about witchcraft. Fighting is like hand-to-hand combat. If you punch me, I will slap you. The surrounding air was crackling, the breath was surging, and all the trees, flowers and plants suffered. Here the 2 demonic beasts fought fiercely, and the beautiful woman was unwilling to be left alone. Hey, kid from Qianyuanzong, let's make gestures. The beautiful woman smiled and said. Shu Yufan frowned. He couldn't see through the opponent's cultivation base, but he could clearly feel that it wasn't the Foundation Establishment period. It is higher than my own cultivation base, probably 10th level of qi refining. Shu Yufan was thinking. When the beautiful woman slapped the storage bag, a red water chestnut flew out. With a light swipe of her finger, the red water chestnut immediately bounded towards Shu Yufan. This series of actions was as fast as lightning, and everything happened so fast that it was impossible to react. Seeing that the red water chestnut was about to reach him, Shu Yufan quickly activated the true qi in his body to protect his whole body. Hong Ling touched the Vajra talisman around Shu Yufan, and immediately entangled it quickly, binding Shu Yufan like a rice dumpling in the blink of an eye. The tenacity of this Hongling is no less than that of an iron chain, and its tenacity is extremely high. Strong, but he didn't break free at all. What's going on? Shu Yufan was surprised, but before he could figure out the situation, he heard a loud bang. The Hongling burst instantly, turned into a puff of smoke, and disappeared into the air. Shu Yufan was blown away and fell to the ground heavily, leaving nothing to be desired. PFF'd. Shu Yufan vomited blood, feeling his viscera were displaced by the shock, and his whole body was in unbearable pain. The flaws of the Vajra talisman are known to everyone. Knowing that the breakthrough will not work, they use brute force to shake it, causing the protected person to bleed from the 7 orifices and rip the internal organs. At this moment, the beautiful woman approached slowly, smiling all over her face. Hey, the kid from Qianyuanzong dared to come to die at the 7th level of qi refining. Is there no one in your sect? The beautiful woman said with a sly smile. Shu Yufan magic power was running, and he stepped back. At the same time, he used the nameless sword art, and 7 small golden swords condensed in the air, and shot towards the woman. The beautiful woman snorted coldly. How dare you use such a small skill to shame others? Seeing the beautiful woman push out her palm suddenly, a gust of black wind blew up, blowing away the shadow of the sword, and continued to approach Shu Yufan. Shu Yufan screamed in his heart that it was not good, but he couldn't dodge it, so he had to rely on his strong body to fight it. Bang bang bang. A series of impact sounds sounded, and Shu Yufan's body kept flying backwards, colliding with several huge boulders, and barely stabilized his figure. Fortunately, he practiced the divine body technique, otherwise his body would have been shattered. Shu Yufan looked up at the beautiful woman, only to see that she was standing there with a mocking expression on her face. Hey, little girl, he's so ruthless, he doesn't even give him any time to prepare. Shu Yufan spat out the dust in his mouth and cursed. The beautiful woman was not angry either, the corners of her mouth slightly turned up, showing an evil smile, and said, Boy, I didn't expect you to be able to hold on, it seems that I have to use some ruthless tricks, otherwise I won't be able to subdue you. Although the words were light, the beautiful woman was extremely shocked. She had used all her strength in the few moves just now, but she failed to kill the opponent. Not only that, Shu Yufan was still alive and kicking, apparently only suffered minor injuries. You know, she is the pinnacle of the 10th level of Qi refining, and the other party is just a small cultivator of the 7th level of Qi refining. Thinking that she couldn't do anything to a kid at the 7th level of Qi refining, the beautiful woman couldn't help but feel even more annoyed. As soon as she finished speaking, she slapped the storage bag again, and a red talisman flew out. Boy, try my medium-grade talisman, the falling stone technique. After finishing speaking, the beautiful woman urged the magic power in Dantian to move towards the red talisman. Send it in. The red talisman is like a whirlpool, absorbing the energy of the beautiful woman Dantian. Seeing this, Shu Yufan couldn't help but secretly frown. It's impossible to go on like this, and he must get out of trouble as soon as possible. Shu Yufan was thinking about how to get out of trouble, when the scarlet charm suddenly exploded, and a ray of earth-gray light shot up into the sky. Boom! The light rushed to the sky, forming a sea of stones above Shu Yufan's head. The head-sized stone kept jumping, and after half a breath, countless stones smashed towards Shu Yufan. Shu Yufan was terrified in his heart. These stones fell down, no matter how strong his body was, he would still be turned into a pulp. Without the slightest hesitation, Shu Yufan roared. Vajra is not bad. Roar! Vajra's body instantly appeared on Shu Yufan's back, and his skin turned golden yellow like a golden liquid. A boulder the size of a face above his head had already smashed onto Shu Yufan's body. Boom! The boulder shattered. Shu Yufan was not only fine, there was not even a trace left on his bare skin. This Vajra's unbreakable defense is really terrifying. Such a huge boulder smashed down with a powerful impact, and Shu Yufan was unscathed. Seeing that Shu Yufan was safe and sound, the beautiful woman couldn't help but gasp. No, boy, you can't have such a strong defense. This is just the first boulder, and there are hundreds of boulders. You must not be able to resist it. The beautiful woman screamed. As soon as she finished speaking, the huge boulder above Shu Yufan's head fell on Shu Yufan like raindrops. Bang bang bang. The boulder hit Shu Yufan, and the sound of bang bang was heard endlessly. White dust smog continuously rose from the surface of Shu Yufan's body, and his whole body was submerged by broken stone foam as if he was in a quarry. Bang bang. The boulder technique was still going on, and the beautiful woman could no longer see Shu Yufan's situation, but judging from the sound, Shu Yufan was still safe and sound. After a cup of tea, the rockfall technique was finally released. Shu Yufan still stood where he was, not only was not affected in any way, but was even harder than before. What? This? Seeing Shu Yufan still standing there, the beautiful woman couldn't help being shocked. She spent all her magic power on those stones just now to display the intermediate level talisman. Now the opponent has nothing to do, and she has no power to fight anymore. Impossible. How can you, a kid at the 7th level of Qi refining, resist my middle level talisman? Even in the foundation establishment period, you have to shed a layer of skin if you want to survive. How can you resist the middle level talisman and be safe and sound? Quote. The beautiful woman had a look of disbelief. Is there anything impossible? Hee, little girl, what other means do you have to use quickly? Today, the young master will let you see the gold content of the 7th layer of Qi refining. Shu Yufan chuckled. Although his Dantian magic power has also been completely drained, but the surface must be done well. When the beautiful woman heard this, her complexion changed drastically. At this moment, the battle between Vajra the White Ape King and the Monkey King is coming to an end. Boom! With a loud bang, the Monkey King flew up to the sky, and the sprayed blood followed him to form a unique scenery. Boom! The Monkey King fell heavily on a boulder, which was smashed to pieces in an instant. Vajra's figure appeared, holding a golden stick, covered in blood, and there was a 2-finger-wide gash on his forehead, blood gushing out. Not only the forehead, but also the back and arms all had a lot of cuts. Vajra ignored this, staring at the Monkey King. The Monkey King lay on the ground, unable to see life and death. After a few seconds, he struggled to stand up. At this time, the state of the Monkey King was worse than that of Vajra, with a broken hand. There were no less than a dozen wounds on his body, each of which was the size of a finger. The blood-red hair had obviously lost its previous luster and looked a little dull. The Monkey King glanced at Vajra, and his eyes were no longer disdainful, but fearful. It suffered a big loss from the battle just now. It seems that it is inseparable from Vajra, but it is actually at an absolute disadvantage. The golden stick was snatched, and it was finally blown out as the best proof. Shu Yufan in the distance also saw the current situation. Our side has a big advantage and can almost push down the crystal on the opposite side. Ah no, you can open champagne and eat monkey brains. Seeing this, the beautiful woman turned pale, without any trace of blood. She didn't expect that even her biggest reliance would be defeated. The beautiful woman sighed secretly, and unknowingly used divine sense to give the Monkey King an order. The Monkey King's expressionless face suddenly changed, and then his eyes rolled. A decision was made that made Shu Yufan and Vajra's jaws drop. Run away. No, wrong. The Monkey King made a decision in an instant, turned around, kicked his feet on the ground, jumped to the side of the beautiful woman, stretched out his hand, grabbed the beautiful woman on his back, and jumped high towards the back. Seeing this scene, Shu Yufan was dumbfounded. Before the outcome was decided, why did he run away? As for Vajra, he was much calmer than Shu Yufan, as he had expected. Presumably, the monsters who can reach the Foundation establishment realm are all spiritually intelligent, and their IQs are no less than humans. Since you can't fight, why don't you run? As if afraid of Shu Yufan and Vajra's pursuit, the beautiful woman took out a storage bag from her arms, threw it in the opposite direction, and shouted loudly. Boy Qianyuanzong, that is all of this girl's wealth. If you want it, you can just pick it up. I'm not afraid to tell you that I have arranged a formation in the storage bag. If no one touches it for a stick of incense, it will self-destruct. Quote. Shu Yufan listened blankly, unable to react for a moment. After a while, I came back to my senses. It turned out that the beautiful woman's intention was very simple. If she and the Monkey King were hunted down, they would definitely not get the storage bag. If you want storage bags, give up chasing them. Seeing the Monkey King who was about to disappear from sight, Shu Yufan turned to look at Vajra. Ah, Xiao Jin, are you going to chase after him? Vajra shook his head. Don't chase the poor. We're not at war. Are you afraid that the other party might have an ambush? Shu Yufan gave Vajra a blank look, and said angrily. Vajra thought for a while, and then said, I and it are both monsters, and I know that cultivation is not easy, so I spare its life. Do you have such a mind? Shu Yufan gave Vajra a blank look. Your task is considered complete. Let's get out of here, boss. Vajra urged. Oddly enough, it's not like the brutal Vajra. Shu Yufan looked at Vajra carefully, and found that its hands were trembling slightly. Are you afraid? Vajra retorted stubbornly. There is no one in this world that Vajra is afraid of. I'm talking about the same realm. Then why don't you chase after the woman who killed the Monkey King and threatened to train you into a pet? You are defeated, it's not worth it. Help me up. Quote. Before he finished speaking, Vajra swayed and almost fell to the ground. Shu Yufan, I've passed the berserk state, and now the magic power is empty. If we don't leave the Monkey King and turn around, we will die here. Shu Yufan was speechless, showing a helpless look. I just cast the, Vajra is not bad, of, divine physique, and now the magic power is empty, and I have no power to fight again. Vajra. Before Shu Yufan could jump over to support Vajra, Vajra fell to the ground. It's better to get the woman's storage bag first. You restore the magic power first. Shu Yufan grabbed a handful of chi refining pills from the storage bag and threw it to Vajra, while he himself walked towards the storage bag thrown by the beautiful woman. Picking up the storage bag, before he could check it, Shu Yufan relied on the strength of his body to hold Vajra in one hand and ran away. Vajra's body has returned to its original size, and it is no longer as tall as a giant. Although Shu Yufan's support is strenuous, it is not unacceptable. Fortunately, it's not too far from the entrance of the valley, only tens of meters, but within a dozen breaths, they reached the entrance of the valley. Boss, let's enter the mysterious space. Seeing Shu Yufan sweating profusely and looking like a tired dog, Vajra suggested. No, at least run farther before entering the mysterious space. Shu Yufan did not dare to enter the mysterious space here. Who knows if there will be a cultivator coming over, if you happen to meet it when you come out, then Barbie will really be buckled. But I can't hold it with my hands anymore, I have to change my back. Throwing Vajra up, Vajra then landed firmly on Shu Yufan's back. Without stopping, Shu Yufan rushed out of the fog formation with Vajra on his back. Before going out, Shu Yufan looked back, but he didn't see the beautiful woman and the Monkey King. I breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately that beautiful woman is a tough guy, otherwise I and Vajra would really have to hide in the mysterious space. In this way, the secret of Own will also be exposed. As soon as he left the valley, Vajra on his back breathed a sigh of relief. Shu Yufan quickened his pace, he wanted to run as far as possible before falling into a deep sleep. After half a stick of incense, Shu Yufan felt dizzy for a while. His complexion changed drastically, and he raised his hand to give himself a slap. In the blink of an eye, the surrounding environment changed, and Shu Yufan and Vajra appeared in the mysterious space. Boom! The huge bodies of a man and a beast hit the ground heavily, making a piercing sound. Jerry, who was practicing, was startled and jumped up, and he was relieved when he saw Shu Yufan, the boss of Own, and Vajra, the second brother. But just glanced at it, and my heart suddenly came to my throat. It quickly jumped over and came to Shu Yufan's side, jumping up and down nervously, chirping non-stop. Vajra sat up in a jerk. Third brother, don't bark, it's too loud, the boss is fine, he just used the aftereffect of, Vajra is not bad, and he will wake up naturally after an hour. When Jerry heard this, he was relieved. At this time, all the wounds on Vajra's body have healed, and the blood no longer flows out. It's just that the magic power in the body was exhausted, and the blood was also severely consumed, which made him appear very weak. Fortunately, after eating more than a dozen chi refining pills, he recovered a lot. Okay, third child, you go and play by yourself, I also need to meditate to recover from my injuries. After Vajra finished speaking, he jumped on a big tree, sat on the branch, and began to meditate. This big tree was planted by Shu Yufan half a month ago, and now the trunk is as thick as a face. Jerry took a look at Vajra, pointed at Shu Yufan and yelled for a while. Seeing that Vajra had already fallen into samadhi, he had no choice but to walk away. Time flies. An hour later, Shu Yufan woke up. Luckily I entered the mysterious space at the last moment, otherwise I really don't know how to die. Shu Yufan sat up, frightened for a while. After sighing, Shu Yufan inspected Own's body and found that there was no injury at all, and looked inside Meridian's dantian again, which was also intact. Shu Yufan breathed a sigh of relief. Turning his head to look around, he saw Vajra sitting on a big tree meditating, but he didn't shout. The third child was sleeping soundly on the pile of rocks, and didn't feel Shu Yufan's waking up at all. Shu Yufan shook his head helplessly, and took out the storage bag thrown by the beautiful woman from his arms. Let's take a look at the spoils first. God Shu Yufan sensitively probed into the storage bag, and was immediately disappointed. The huge storage bag holds only 3 items. They are a jade slip, a nameplate and a worn paper. It seems that I was fooled by a beautiful woman. Shu Yufan was a little annoyed. Talk about all the money, and the result is 3 things. But when he thought of what beautiful women said, he couldn't help but smile. The beautiful woman must have thought that she and Vajra could fight again, but she didn't know that she and Vajra were both strong outsiders, and the Monkey King could kill both of them with one slap. It was superfluous for her to throw the storage bag and take the opportunity to escape. Thinking of this, Shu Yufan felt that he had earned it again. Even if the beautiful woman doesn't throw the storage bag, I can't do anything to her. Well, I earned 3 items for nothing. No, it's 4 items, and there's also a golden stick. Shu Yufan AQ's spirit suddenly rose. Thinking wildly, Shu Yufan took out the first item from the storage bag, the nameplate. Beast Taming Sect, Lin Weixia. Shu Yufan looked at the words on the nameplate and read it out. According to what he knew, there were not many sects of cultivating immortals in the entire Great Qin Kingdom, only 10, and only 3 could make it to the stage. They are Luoxia Valley, Qingcheng School and Qianyuan School where Shu Yufan is located. Although I can't remember the remaining 7 Shu Yufan, I still have impressions. The beast-controlling sect on the nameplate is not among those 7 small sects. Isn't the beast-controlling sect the sect of the Great Qin Kingdom? Although Shu Yufan has never left the Great Qin Kingdom, he has also learned from ancient books that the territory of the Chaos Continent is very vast, and besides the Great Qin Kingdom, there are many other countries. On the entire territory, Great Qin is only a medium-sized country. Outside of Dakan, there are still many sects cultivating immortality. There are not a few times larger than Qianyuanzong. It is said that some super big sects have powers from the nascent soul realm. Shu Yufan held the nameplate and thought about it for a while, and the words, beast-controlling sect, really didn't exist in his memory. It should be the immortal cultivation sect from another country. Shu Yufan whispered, throwing the nameplate back into the storage bag. Since he is a cultivator from another country, he is not afraid that the other party will come to him. Tens of miles away from the Zongjia Valley, a giant monkey with scars all over its body and blood-red fur was running around in a hurry. There is also a beautiful woman in a skirt sitting on the back of the giant monkey. This man and one monkey are the Monkey King and the beautiful woman after the battle with Shu Yufan and Vajra. Ah, it's over, my storage bag with the ID plate is gone. The beautiful woman let out a cry. The Monkey King slammed on the brakes and stopped. The beautiful woman took out 2 storage bags from her bosom, checked them carefully several times, and finally showed a depressed expression on her face. Just now I reversed the pouch with the sect secrets and badges and the pouch with the spirit stones. Instead of the storage bag for the spirit stones, it's the storage bag for the identity plate and the sect arcana. Quote. The beautiful woman went crazy for a while. Ho 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 ho. The Monkey King yelled a few times. You mean to leave the Great Qin Kingdom quickly? If that kid hands over my identity plate to sect, it will cause trouble for Qian Yuanzong's senior management. The beautiful woman asked. Her pet has just arrived at the Foundation establishment period, and her own practice of beast control art is just barely getting started, so often the interpretation of the Monkey King's soul transmission is not so accurate. The Monkey King nodded. The beautiful woman bowed her head and pondered for a while, before finally nodding bitterly. You were right, this is still not the territory of our beast-controlling sect. My cultivation base has not yet broken through Foundation establishment period, so it is better to be careful. Let's go, we will control the beast sect. Quote. As he spoke, he stuffed 7 or 8 medicine pills into the Monkey King's mouth. Then, the beautiful woman gritted her teeth and whispered to herself, Qianyuanzong boy, next time I see you, I won't be called Lin Weixia until I torture you. Naturally, the Monkey King ignored his master's incompetence and fury. He let go of his feet and ran towards the south direction desperately, ignoring his physical injuries. Hee. Shu Yufan sneezed as soon as he took out the jade slip. Who is missing me? Shu Yufan raised his head subconsciously, and at this moment, a warm current poured into his body from the palm of his hand. Shu Yufan looked down at the palm holding jade slip, and saw that jade slip was white and crystal clear, and he knew it was not ordinary. Hey, this jade slip is not simple, it seems that there are some tricks. Shu Yufan was secretly delighted, it seemed that he had obtained a treasure. Spirit controlling art, the core secret method of the beast controlling sect, only the successors of the sect leader are eligible to practice it. Shu Yufan's eyes widened, and he couldn't believe the information he saw on jade slip. This is a set of secret methods, the secret method of the beast control sect, and non-sect leader heirs cannot practice it. From the description on jade slip, Shu Yufan knew that this, controlling the spirit, was not easy. According to the above records, this, spirit controlling Ju, is a cultivation technique that enhances the power of one's own soul. That is divine sense. Controlling the spirit Ju has 2 stages, each stage is divided into 3 layers, a total of 6 layers. Each layer improves the power of the cultivator's soul very much. The higher the number of cultivation layers, the stronger the power of the soul becomes. According to Jade Slip, the first stage of training in the art of controlling the spirit is to temper one's own soul to make the power of the soul stronger. And the second stage is to fuse own soul with heaven and earth, making it more pure and powerful. Once the first stage is completed, the divine sense can be driven to control human cultivators or demonic beasts. For cultivators who are much lower than themselves, they can control the other party's life and death with just a thought. You can also control the other party's thinking and let the other party obey you. This is just one of them, and the second is the supernatural powers of Taoism attached to controlling the spirit Ju. The basic, whispering technique can scan the cultivation base of other cultivators without being detected. As long as the difference between realms does not exceed one big realm, you can see its real cultivation base without any mistakes, even if the other party wears items that hide cultivation base or practices cultivation technique that hides cultivation base, it can't stop the looking chi technique. This, spirit-controlling Ju, is an auxiliary mental method, and it has been practiced to a high level, but it is not inferior to those attacking cultivation techniques, and it is even stronger. After watching Jade slip, Xu Yufan only had 2 words in his mind. Get rich. With incomparable excitement, Xu Yufan took out the last item in the storage bag, that old piece of paper. Nothing that can be put together with an identity plate and a jade slip that records untransmitted occult methods is definitely not rubbish. Xu Yufan turned the old paper upside down, when looking at. When I saw the 5 characters at the top of the paper, my heart skipped a beat. Open double angle bracket foundation establishment Dan recipe close double angle bracket. It's foundation establishment Dan's recipe. Xu Yufan's eyes became red, and even his breathing became short of breath. Compared to jade slips, conquering the spirit, this foundation establishment pill formula is obviously more important to him. He had thought about how to get more foundation establishment pills before, but he never thought that he would get the formula for foundation establishment pills. With this formula, it shows that Xu Yufan has countless opportunities for foundation establishment. Originally, the qualifications were not high, and the chance of advancing to the foundation establishment period was very slim. If you want to enter the foundation establishment period, there is really no other better way than using the foundation establishment Dandui. Xu Yufan suppressed the excitement in his heart, and began to carefully check the list of foundation establishment pill recipes. Refining foundation establishment pill requires 9 kinds of spiritual herbs, namely, fire yunji, bingulian, golden toad, golden silkworm, silver snake gallbladder, white crane saliva, blood lotus flower, green bamboo leaf and purple gold vine. Moreover, the age of spiritual herbs must be more than 200 years old. Looking at the spiritual herbs above, Xu Yufan was stunned, not to mention knowing each other, he had never heard of these 9 spiritual herbs. Of course, he can't be blamed for this. He hasn't had time to read the complete collection of spiritual herbs that he captured in the treasure pavilion last time. Xu Yufan carefully checked the list of refining the foundation establishment pill again, and after confirming that it was correct, he put the pill recipe back into the storage bag. Although he doesn't recognize the above spiritual herbs, Xu Yufan is not worried at all. He believes that it is still very easy to gather 9 kinds of spiritual herbs. In the entire immortal world, the type of spiritual herbs is important, but the year is more important. The age of spiritual herbs often determines the quality of the medicine pill and the success rate of the pill. Therefore, generally, the spiritual herbs of low vintage are not wanted by anyone, and they are relatively easy to buy. Of course, those spiritual herbs needed by foundation establishment are also included. Xu Yufan has a mysterious space and can plant invincible plugins that promote the growth of spiritual herbs. As long as he can get seeds or seedlings, he can grow spiritual herbs that are 200 years old, no, even 2000 years old. So, as long as he doesn't ask for the year, it's really easy to buy these 9 spiritual herbs. Haha, Daddy is really possessed by the Emperor of Europe. Xu Yufan laughed out loud. This smile directly awakened Vajra and Jerry. A monkey and a mouse looked at Xu Yufan, and Vajra shouted happily, "Boss, you're awake." Then, with a flash before Xu Yufan's eyes, Vajra and Jerry came beside him. "Boss, are you okay? You scared me to death," Vajra said exaggeratedly. "Scare you? Didn't Daddy tell you in advance that the magic power is exhausted?" Xu Yufan slapped him with a slap. "Hee, I just said coherently, scared me to death." Vajra rubbed his head sheepishly. Shu Yufan gave Vajra a blank look, and asked, "How are you okay?" "It's okay, that's a normal phenomenon after the berserk, and now I've recovered." Vajra smiled foolishly. "Frenzy, you've said it 2 or 3 times. What do you mean by berserk? Can you still switch gears?" Shu Yufan looked at Vajra suspiciously. "A shift? What shift?" Vajra scratched his head, thought for a while but didn't understand, so he said, "I don't know what the shifting gear the boss is talking about, and rage is my talent's supernatural power. After turning it on, my body and combat power will double, but the duration is relatively short. After the berserk, it will fall into a state of weakness, such as it is now. It is the same state as the boss after casting. Vajra is not bad." Quote. Vajra explained it well. Talent supernatural power. Is this similar to the Taoist supernatural power of a human cultivator? Wait, it seems that humans also have talent supernatural powers. Shu Yufan suddenly remembered the last time he heard from Huang Zhang that the root aptitude of 5th rank would be born with supernatural powers of talent. I don't know if this is the case. In fact, Shu Yufan got it wrong, or there was something wrong with what Huang Zhang said. Cultivator is the root aptitude of the 5th rank pinnacle. It may come with talent supernatural powers, but not necessarily. This is like a lottery, whether it is completely depends on luck. Shu Yufan thought for a while, and finally shook his head, leaving talent supernatural power behind. Playing with Vajra Jerry, Shu Yufan suddenly felt a commotion in Dantian, and his expression changed drastically. "I'm going to upgrade to the 8th level of Qi refining." Shu Yufan dodged and entered the pill refining room. Vajra and Jerry didn't dare to disturb. Shu Yufan took out 2 Qi refining pills from the storage bag, swallowed them into his stomach, calmed down, and began to attack the 8th layer of the Qi refining stage. Under the impact of the medicinal power of the Qi refining pill, the spiritual Qi in the mysterious space also began to gather towards Shu Yufan. But when it was time for a cup of tea, there was a long whistle from the pill refining room. Oh, Vajra and Jerry, who were waiting outside, showed joy on their faces. Boss broke through. Afterwards, the entire mysterious space began to change, quietly expanding around. The edge flared out a meter before stopping. Shu Yufan came out of the pill refining room and happened to see this scene. My cultivation base has been improved, and this mysterious space has become larger again. Such a magical space, without a name, is really a drop in price. Today, I, the master, will give this land a name. Quote. Shu Yufan pondered for a while. It's called Great Thousand Worlds. Vajra and Jerry have walked up to Shu Yufan and heard what Shu Yufan said. Vajra was slightly first rank, and nodded in praise. Boss, you really have learned a lot. Squeak. Jerry barked his teeth and claws in agreement. Shu Yufan brazenly accepted the praise from both of them. Okay, we've been here for a long time. The location where we entered the Great Thousand World is not far from Zongjiagu, so it's better to leave early. It is better to stay away from such a place of right and wrong. Vajra nodded. Good boss, we'd better go back to sect first. Xiao Jin, is your injury completely healed? Shu Yufan asked. Well, it's all right. Vajra nodded. Then follow me out, you are faster than me, and you are still good at driving. Vajra was very depressed. Boss, you really think of me as a mount? With a thought, Shu Yufan left the world with Vajra. In the outside world, Shu Yufan jumped on Vajra's back, and 1 ape and 1 man ran towards Qianyuanzong. Half a day later, on a mountain range, Shu Yufan asked Vajra to stop and rest. I stood on the top of the mountain and looked at the scenery from a distance. Suddenly the divine sense moved, and 2 cultivator breaths rushed towards me. However, no hostility was felt. There is a cultivator approaching. Xiaojin, you go into Daqianshi. Dodge. Quote. What are you hiding? Why don't we kill and snatch their treasures? Hee. Vajra smiled brightly. Shu Yufan gave Vajra a blank look, and said angrily. Take your head, I didn't feel the murderous intent of the other party. Maybe it's a disciple of Qianyuanzong. You'd better enter the Great Thousand World and stay for a while. After speaking, with a thought, Vajra was sent into the world. He stood still and waited for someone to come. Not long after, 2 youths in blue costumes appeared in front of Shu Yufan. Seeing the 2 people appear, Shu Yufan narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at them carefully. Look at the cultivator dressed in Qingcheng style. One of the two cultivators of the Qingcheng faction looked only 17 or 18 years old, with an immature face, a thin body, and looked very frail. The other one looked taller and stronger, about 20 years old. This man had a rough appearance, long hair draped over his shoulders, a fierce face, and eyes as sharp as tigers and leopards. The cultivation base of these two people is in the qi refining period, and the cultivation base of the thin young man is the same as Xu Yufan's, with the 8th level of qi refining. As for the tall and strong young man, Xu Yufan couldn't see through it, but he could tell from his perception that his cultivation base was a little higher, probably at the 9th level of qi refining. When the two cultivators of the Qingcheng faction saw Xu Yufan, they immediately cupped their hands and saluted. This is Huang Hao, the inner disciple of the Qingcheng school. This is my younger brother Li Tianl. May I ask which inner disciple of the Qianyuan sect is the fellow Taoist? Huang Hao cupped his hands and saluted. Oh, it turns out to be Huang, fellow Taoist, and Li Dao, friend of Qingcheng sect, the inner disciple Xu Yufan of Qianyuanzong. Xu Yufan also returned the gift with cupped hands. My heart turned sharply. What is the intention of these two Qingcheng sent to find me? Could it be to intercept Own? Xu Yufan thought to himself. So it's Xu, fellow Taoist. Huang Hao smiled fiercely. Xu Yufan didn't want to chat with the other party, so he asked directly. I don't know what the two fellow Taoists are doing here. Do you need any help? Hearing Xu Yufan's question, Huang Hao smiled slightly, and said, to tell the truth, I'm bothering fellow Taoist Xu with my junior to invite fellow Taoist Xu to participate in a small trade fair. Participating in a trade fair? What trade fair? Xu Yufan asked. It is to trade some things commonly used in cultivation world. For example, cultivation technique cheats, medicine pill, talismans, etc. I wonder if fellow Taoists are interested in participating. Quote. Huang Hao answered briefly, then asked. Xu Yufan pondered for a moment, then nodded. Hearing what Huang, fellow Taoist, said, she was indeed very interested, but I don't know where this fair will be, and who will take the lead. Haha, fellow Taoists don't have to worry about this, even if fellow Taoists don't ask, I will tell you clearly. Huang Hao smiled heartily. Oh, then Xu is all ears. Xu Yufan also smiled. Huang Hao said, the place where the trade fair will be held this time is in a valley 100 miles away. The leaders are the two fairies of Sunset Cloud Valley. Quote. Are there other people besides the two fellow Taoists and the two fairies from Sunset Cloud Valley? Xu Yufan asked again. For safety reasons, he had to ask clearly. There are still 3 rogue cultivators who are on the 7th and 8th floors of the qi refining period. But Xu, fellow Taoist, don't worry, those 3 rogue cultivators Huang are familiar with each other, so there will be no problem. Huang Hao said. Xu Yufan frowned slightly, and began to think in his heart. That Li Tianl didn't speak all the time, and looked like he was following Huang Hao's lead. Seeing that Xu Yufan didn't immediately agree, Huang Hao continued. Xu, fellow Taoist, don't worry, this fair is for people who are familiar with it, and we have participated in it several times, with an interval of half a year between each time. If it weren't for seeing that Xu, fellow Taoist, is a disciple of Qianyuanzong, Huang would not have invited you to join. Quote. After hearing this, Xu Yufan smiled slightly. Since Huang, fellow Taoists, say so, then I'd rather be respectful than follow orders, and ask the two fellow Taoists to lead the way. Both Huang Hao and Li Tianl showed joy. So good. Then, the 3 of them ran forward. Along the way, Xu Yufan and Huang Hao chatted all the time, taking the opportunity to ask a lot about the trade fair. Huang Hao didn't hide anything, and basically answered every question, which gave Xu Yufan a deeper understanding of the trade fair. Li Tianl, on the other hand, didn't say much, and only Xu Yufan would say a few words when he asked him. An hour later, Xu Yufan, Huang Hao, and Li Tianl came to a quiet valley. Xu, fellow Taoist, this is the location of the trade fair, here we are. Huang Hao pointed to the valley and said to Xu Yufan. As he spoke, Huang Hao took out a jade token, turned the magic power, and sacrificed the jade token. A hole suddenly appeared in front of the calm and unremarkable, and it spread rapidly to the surroundings, expanding to accommodate several people in the blink of an eye. After a while, a staircase leading to the interior of the valley appeared. Xu, fellow Taoist, don't need to be surprised. this is the formation arranged by Fairy Ling of Luoxia Valley. Every time we hold a trade fair, we will arrange the formation so as not to disturb others. Quote. Seeing that Xu Yufan was surprised, Huang Hao explained with a smile. Oh, so it turns out that Xu is ignorant. Xu Yufan also laughed. While the two were talking, Li Tianl had already walked towards the stairs first. Haha, Xu fellow Taoist, please. Huang Hao made a gesture of invitation. Xu Yufan nodded and followed. Li Tianl led the way, Xu Yufan followed behind, and Huang Hao walked at the back. The three of them quickly disappeared on the stairs and entered the valley. The air in the valley is fresh and the birds are singing and the flowers are fragrant. There are cliffs on both sides, there are a lot of vegetation and trees, but there is no house. Apparently this was a temporary location. Hey, I didn't expect the spiritual qi in this valley to be 20-30% richer than the outside. Feeling the spiritual qi around him, Xu Yufan said in surprise. A gathering spirit array is set up here, so the spiritual qi is stronger than outside. Huang Hao explained. Xu Yufan lamented in his heart, this is too much effort, even holding a trade fair will not forget to gather spirits to practice. While the two were talking, 3 female cultivators walked towards them. The leader was a young woman with a hot figure, a curvy figure, white skin like fat, and exquisite and beautiful facial features. This glamorous woman is none other than the fairy Ling Yudi from the Sunset Clouds Valley. On the left side of Ling Yudi was a woman with a delicate appearance, white hair hanging down her chest, and a light blue gauze dress. The woman on Ling Yudi's right is petite and exquisite, with a round face, and she is very cute. Huang fellow Taoist, friend Li Dao, my 2 junior sisters and I have been waiting for you for a long time, you are not on time this time. Ling Yudi greeted Huang Hao and Li Tianl with a charming smile. Huang Hao laughed, and said, haha, Fairy Ling, Fairy Wang, there is a reason for Huang to be late this time. No, bring a new fellow Taoist to Ling fellow Taoist, hey, this fairy is. Seeing the lovely woman on the right, Huang Hao gasped. Hee, Huang fellow Taoist, this is my junior sister Hu Yuner. Hu Yuner met Huang fellow Taoist and Li Dao friend. The lovely girl who yesterday. The son bowed slightly. I'm Huang Hao, I'm lucky enough to meet Fairy Hu. Huang Hao returned a salute. I'm Li Tianl. Li Tianli's face did not change, and he still had a dead face with no expression. By the way, Ling fellow Taoist, Wang fellow Taoist, Hu fellow Taoist, this is Xu Yufan Xu fellow Taoist, the inner disciple of Qian Yuanzong, invited by Huang to join our trade fair. Huang Hao pointed to Xu Yufan behind him and said to Ling Yudi. Then, he pointed to Ling Yudi and introduced them to Xu Yufan. Xu fellow Taoist, these 3 are the inner disciples of Sunset Cloud Valley that I mentioned earlier, the one in the middle is Fairy Ling Yudi, the one on the left is Fairy Wang Bing, and the one on the right is Fairy Hu Yuner. Huang Hao quickly introduced. It's a pleasure to meet you, Xu fellow Taoist. The 3 of Ling Yudi smiled at Xu Yufan and nodded to him together to show politeness. Xu Yufan also nodded to the 3 of Ling Yudi. After the 6 exchanged pleasantries again, Huang Hao looked around and saw no one else, so he asked Ling Yudi, Fairy Ling, fellow Taoist Zhang, are they still here? Zhang fellow Taoist that Huang Hao said was one of the 3 rogue cultivators. Zhang fellow Taoist just sent a voice transmission to my subordinate, he said that he will be in the valley soon, let us wait patiently. Ling Yudi said. Huang Hao didn't say anything after hearing the words. The 6 sat down in front of Bai's eye, waiting for the arrival of the remaining 3. After about a stick of incense, a loud voice suddenly came from the valley. You fellow Taoists came so early, it was Zhang and the other 3 who were late, please forgive me. Following the sound, the cultivator surnamed Zhang quickly came from the mouth of the valley. Behind him are 2 cultivators. When Ling Yudi Xu Wang Hao saw this, a look of joy flashed in his eyes, but he quickly hid it. Zhang Taoist brought 2 cultivators and came to the crowd after a while. Please forgive me for making Huang fellow Taoist, Ling Shanzi and fellow Taoists wait so long. The cultivator surnamed Zhang smiled and cupped hands to everyone. Haha, brother Zhang, don't worry about it, we have just arrived not long ago. Huang Hao stood up and smiled politely. Several people got up to salute one after another. Hey, there are 2 new faces. The cultivator surnamed Zhang asked if he knew Shu Yufan and Hu Yuner. Haha, Zhang fellow Taoist is still sharp-eyed. This is the new fellow Taoist. This is Shu Yufan Shu fellow Taoist from Qianyuanzong, and that is Hu Yuner fellow Taoist from Luoxia Valley. Ling Yudi introduced. Oh, two fellow Taoists, it's a pleasure to meet you. In the next picture, these two are my younger brother Zhang Sheng and my good friend Li Wu. Fortunate, we'll be lucky to meet. Quote, Shu Yufan cupped hands, greeting the three of Zhang too. After everyone introduced each other, they gathered around and sat on the spot. The entire trade fair is divided into two stages. The first stage is discussion, that is, everyone exchanges cultivation experience with each other. The second stage is to trade items. Huang Hao told Shu Yufan about this on the way here, so Shu Yufan was not surprised. The 9 people sitting together are all on the 8th or 9th floor of the qi refining stage. There is not much difference in strength on the surface, so there is no distinction between high and low status. Except for Shu Yufan, others spoke one after another, telling their own cultivation experience and some insights on Taoism. It was okay at first, but after listening to it, I felt a little boring. Shu Yufan fell asleep hearing this. Although Huang Hao and others said a lot, they were also miscellaneous, and after Shu Yufan thought about it, there were not many useful ones. To sum it up in one sentence, that's mostly nonsense. But they just talked with enthusiasm and listened attentively. From Shu Yufan's point of view, the journey of cultivating immortality is nothing more than wealth, fate, law and land. Money can speed up your practice, such as medicine pill spiritual herbs spirit stones, and it can also enhance your strength, such as magical item magic treasures and talisman formation. The law is magic power. Magic power allows you to improve your strength, not to be afraid of powerful enemies, and you can use your powerful strength to obtain more spirit stones spiritual herbs medicine pill. And fate is chance. With chance, you can get more treasures of heaven and earth, and break through your own cultivation base. As for the last land, that is the own territory, the land of own practice, trees have roots, water has sources, and people naturally need territories. These 4 things are indispensable for cultivators, and they are indispensable if they want to ascend in the daytime and be in the immortal class. Just when Shu Yufan was falling asleep, Ling Yudi suddenly said to him, Shu fellow Taoist, everyone has shared and exchanged their cultivation experience, but you have not spoken, whether you have a unique cultivation method. Hearing this, Shu Yufan woke up most of the time. However, I was speechless for a while. What kind of cultivation experience can I have? With my fundamental aptitude, if I practice meditation honestly, I am afraid that it will be a pile of loess in 100 years. I really want to say that there is no lack of cultivation experience, that is to pile up the medicine pill, and eat the medicine pill as candy. Can you guys do it? Shu Yufan complained in his heart, but still had a pensive look on his face. The cultivation technique cultivated by Shu is a little different from fellow Taoists, and it may not be useful to fellow Taoists if you say it. Shu Yufan hesitated and said, Oh, different, that would be even better, we just need different practice experiences and methods. Ling Yudi looked at Shu Yufan and said happily, That's right, Shu fellow Taoist, we need different methods so that we can get better cultivation experience. Huang Hao also nodded in agreement with Ling Yudi's words. The others also showed expressions of agreement. Shu Yufan felt helpless. You are really not suitable for my cultivation method. Actually, what I'm cultivating is a body cultivator cultivation technique, and I don't have much experience in meditation. Shu Yufan thought for a while and said, Anyway, I have practiced divine physique, and my physical body is strong, so it's not wrong to say that. As soon as Shu Yufan's voice fell, the surroundings became silent for an instant, and pairs of surprised eyes fell on Shu Yufan. Body cultivator, you are actually a body cultivator. Shu fellow Taoist is a body cultivator. Our 3 major sect body cultivators are rare. Seeing that everyone didn't believe it, Shu Yufan took out a dagger from the storage bag, stretched out his bare arm, and swung it down. The dagger didn't even cut Shu Yufan's skin. How is it possible? How could your physical body be so strong? Ling Yudi had an unbelievable expression on her face. She could see that Shu Yufan's slashing was not strong, but with the sharpness of the dagger, it would break a hole no matter what. Not to mention anything else, if it was her, the skin would definitely be scratched by a dagger. Unexpectedly, many fellow Taoists are really body cultivators. Huang Hao also looked surprised. The others didn't speak, but they looked surprised from their expressions. None of the people present showed any doubts. It is really impossible for ordinary cultivators to have such a strong physical strength except for body cultivators. This is actually no wonder they are short-sighted. They have cultivated the first level of divine physique, and Xu Yufan's physical strength is indeed as powerful as the body cultivator of the 5th or 6th level of qi refining. Seeing everyone's reactions, Xu Yufan knew in his heart that the speech, "Ah no," it was the trouble of exchanging ideas that was fooled away. It seems that divine physique is not practiced in vain, at least it can confuse the opponent. Since this is the case, the practice experience of Xu fellow Taoist is indeed not suitable for us. Huang Hao came back to his senses. Okay, it's getting late, and our semi-annual exchange meeting is over. Next we start trading items. Quote, Ling Yudi said to everyone with a smile. As soon as Xu Yufan heard that the transaction was about to start, Xu Yufan suddenly regained his energy, and his heart was filled with anticipation. After all, the purpose of his coming here is to see if he can buy suitable own items. Whether it is panacea, medicine pill, magical item, talisman, whatever is useful to you will do. After Ling Yudi finished speaking, she saw that no one objected, but instead all looked expectantly, feeling happy in her heart. Okay, even so, let's start now, Ling Yudi said as he took out a few items from the storage bag. Then quickly placed the item in the center for everyone present to see. Ling Yudi put out a total of 3 items, a jade box containing an elixir, and 2 magical items. I saw the elixir emitting a light blue light and exuding a strong fragrance, which was intoxicating. Everyone was attracted by this elixir, but no one paid attention to the 2 magical items. What kind of elixir is this? It looks like a kind of fruit, and it looks a bit like spiritual herbs. This elixir grows really strange. Forgive me for my ignorance, I have never seen such a panacea. Based on the medicinal fragrance emitted by this elixir, the year may not be short. Everyone speculated and discussed continuously. Only Xu Yufan frowned. He didn't recognize the spiritual herbs, but the medicinal fragrance was somewhat familiar. However, he is very clear about the age of the elixir. After cultivating so many century-old elixir in the Great Thousand World, he can basically tell the age of the elixir at a glance. I don't know, Ling fellow Taoist, what kind of elixir is this? I think the age of this elixir has reached 80 or 90 years. I'm afraid it's not an ordinary elixir. Xu Yufan couldn't bear the curiosity in his heart, and asked. Xu fellow Taoist has extraordinary vision. Yes, the age of this elixir has indeed reached 90 years, and it is only 8 or 9 years away from 100 years. Ling Yudi praised it. Ah, an elixir that is 90 years old. Except for Xu Yufan's normal face, everyone else was taken aback for a moment, and then a look of surprise appeared on their faces. The year is 90 years, it is considered a treasure in the entire Great Qin Kingdom. It is really extraordinary that Ling Yudi took out such treasures. Fairy Ling, what kind of elixir is this? Zhang Tu asked impatiently. That's right, Ling fellow Taoist shouldn't be so secretive. Even Li Tianel, who cherishes words like gold, asked. Seeing everyone's inquiries, Ling Yudi smiled even wider, obviously very satisfied with Zhang Tu and others' aggressive performance. I don't want to keep it any longer, this is a nearly 100-year-old silver snake gall. Ling Yudi said it. Silver snake gall. When the cultivator present heard this name, they all showed confusion in their hearts. None of them are pill refining masters, to be precise, they are not sect who want to train to become pill refining. The candidates for the master naturally don't know much about elixir. Only Xu Yufan had a shocked expression on his face, and at the same time his heart was beating even more wildly. The scent of the medicine that I was familiar with before was immediately understood. This silver snake gallbladder is one of the 9 elixirs needed to refine the foundation establishment pill. Seeing everyone confused, Ling Yudi became even more arrogant. Silver snake pill is very unfamiliar to everyone, but if I name a medicine pill, everyone will definitely be familiar with it. What medicine pill? Huang Hao asked. Foundation Establishment Dan. What? Foundation Establishment Dan. Could this silver snake gallbladder be one of the elixir for refining the foundation establishment pill? Yes, as far as I know, this is one of the 9 elixir needed to refine the foundation establishment pill. Ling Yudi's face was solemn, and when it came to foundation establishment Dan, even her tone changed. As soon as this remark came out, the frying pan immediately exploded. Everyone is familiar with the foundation establishment pill. As one of the elixir for refining the foundation establishment pill, this silver snake gallbladder is undoubtedly a treasure of indeterminate value. Although it is only one of the 9 elixirs, you can get 1 or 2 foundation establishment pills in exchange for sect. They couldn't figure out why Ling Yudi would trade such spiritual herbs. And Shu Yufan has already figured out how to trade this silver snake grass. Just as Shu Yufan was deep in thought, Huang Hao spoke first, and he said eagerly, "If this is the real silver snake gall, then Huang will take it. No matter what the price is, Huang is willing to pay. Fairy Ling, Zhang also wants to trade the silver snake gall in your hand." Seeing Huang Hao taking the lead, Zhang Tu quickly interjected. Foundation establishment pills are very precious throughout the Great Qin Kingdom. The biggest reason is that almost every cultivator in the qi refining period needs to use foundation establishment pills. This has also resulted in a situation where the supply of foundation establishment Dan is in short supply. Foundation establishment Dan is precious, and the spiritual herbs used as raw materials have naturally become the snatch of many cultivators. In addition, in recent years, there are fewer and fewer old elixir, and the elixir for refining the foundation establishment pill is even more precious. Therefore, it is normal for this silver snake gut to make Zhang Tu and Huang Hao compete. Shu Yufan frowned. This was not a good sign. Not to mention whether the two could win in the end, but one thing was certain, that is, the price would be higher. No matter what, if there is competition, the price will exceed its original value. Shu Yufan thought for a moment, and then said, "Ling fellow Taoist, as far as I know, refining the foundation establishment pill requires more than 100 years of elixir. Your silver snake gall is not true, but this year is not good enough. Far from reaching the standard of medicine." As soon as these words came out, everyone showed another look. Only Ling Yudi, a sinister cold light flashed in her eyes. All of this was seen by Shu Yufan. It seems that Ling Yudi knows that it takes more than 100 years to refine the foundation establishment pill, and she deliberately conceals it and wants to sell it for a high price. "Shu fellow Taoist, are you serious?" Huang Hao frowned and asked. Zhang Tu also watched eagerly. Shu Yufan nodded without hesitation. "I also heard about it from Sect Senior." After receiving Shu Yufan's exact answer, Zhang Tu and Huang Hao's eyes were obviously disappointed. Shu Yufan was secretly delighted. It seemed that the goal of owning had been achieved, but this also offended Ling Yudi. Forget it, since she offered a deal, it must be useless to herself, at most it would cost more. As long as you get the silver snake guts, what are you afraid of offending a few cultivators? Seeing that her own Rui Scepter's abacus could not work, Ling Yudi spoke up. I really don't know, this is really not deceiving you on purpose." Ling Yudi showed a slight embarrassment and said slowly. Of course, she actually knew that when she got the silver snake gall half a month ago, she took back the sect and wanted to exchange it for the foundation establishment pill, but was told by the sect elder at that time that the year was not enough and it was not worth much. Saying this now is of course an excuse for myself. Seeing what Ling Yudi said, the last hope of Zhang Tu and Huang Hao was shattered. What is the value of the silver snake gall that cannot be used to refine the foundation establishment pill? They have no interest in it at all. Ling Yudi was flustered and hated Shu Yufan even more. She immediately said, "Although this silver snake gallbladder is not old enough now, the root and hair of this silver snake gallbladder are all there. If it is transplanted to the medicine garden, if it survives, it can also be used as a material for the foundation establishment pill in another 10 years. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Tu and Huang Hao's despair came over again. Although it will take another 10 years to wait, it is not a loss compared to being able to exchange a few foundation establishment pills. Besides, their cultivation base has not yet reached the 10th level of qi refining, and it will take 3 to 5 years to reach the peak of qi refining. In this way, 10 years will not be long. Fairy Ling is serious. Can the silver snake gallbladder be transplanted into the medicine garden? There was a light of Zai in Huang Hao's eyes. Zhang Tu is also full of expectations. That's natural. The dissatisfaction in Ling Yudi's heart dissipated a lot. Hearing Ling Yudi's firm answer, the two couldn't help thinking about what they could exchange for this silver snake gall. Shu Yufan, with a sneer in his heart, he said to Ling Yudi in a deep voice. Fairy Ling, Mr. Shu would like to ask, what is the chance of surviving the silver snake gallbladder transplanted into the medicine garden? When Ling Yudi heard Shu Yufan's question, her heart trembled inexplicably, and murderous intent flashed in her eyes. All this fell in the eyes of Shu Yufan. It seems that this knife was stabbed deep enough, reaching directly to the heart. Just now Ling Yudi said that it can be planted, so Shu Yufan naturally knew what she was thinking. An extremely rare elixir like this cannot be grown casually. Huang Hao and Zhang Tu waited eagerly for Ling Yudi's answer. After struggling for a while, Ling Yudi said with some dejection, there's less than a half chance of surviving. After Ling Yudi finished speaking, she could clearly see the desire fade from Zhang Tu and Huang Hao's eyes. In fact, Ling Yudi said it was too high. The elder of Sunset Cloud Valley once bluntly said that the chance of survival is 1 in 10,000. Hey, it's a pity. Huang Hao said regretfully. It cannot be handed over to sect as a raw material for Foundation establishment Dan, the value of this silver snake gall is indeed greatly reduced. Although this silver snake gallbladder cannot be used to refine the Foundation establishment pill, it can also be used for other purposes. Don't worry, fellow Taoists, the silver snake gallbladder of such a vintage can be used as a medicine primer to refine medicine pills, and the effect will be greatly improved. Quote. Ling Yudi had no choice but to forcefully explain, wishing to cut Shu Yufan alive. Everyone was not much moved when they heard the words. They are all cultivators in the qi refining stage and cannot yet refine medicine pill. This nearly 100-year-old silver snake gallbladder is not as real to them as a few bottles of qi refining pills. Seeing that no one was willing to trade, Ling Yudi's mood suddenly sank to the bottom. If Ling fellow Taoist is willing, I'll take this silver snake gall, but I don't know what item Ling fellow Taoist needs to exchange for silver snake gall. Medicine pill, or spirit stones? Shu Yufan asked in a deep voice. This silver snake gut is 10 years away from a century, but Shu Yufan doesn't care. As long as the roots are complete, he will have time to grow it in a medicine garden planted in the world, not to mention 100 years, even 1,000 years. Of course, even if there are only roots left, the world can also plant them alive. Shu fellow Taoist is serious. Ling Yudi's eyes lit up. At the same time, he stared at Shu Yufan closely, trying to read how much Shu Yufan needed this silver snake gut. Naturally, Ling Yudi's little thought could not escape Shu Yufan's sharp gaze. He pretended to ponder for a while, and then slowly said, of course, I just happened to accept a sect task, and that content was to hand in a 50-year-old elixir, and regardless of the type of elixir. Quote, after finishing speaking, he paused, and added, if Ling fellow Taoist's asking price is too high, then Shu will have to find another elixir. After all, the price of 50-year-old elixir is much higher than that of 90-year-old elixir. Quote, what Shu Yufan said is very clear, don't ask for too high a price, I won't ask for it. After listening, Ling Yudi hesitated for a moment, and finally had no choice but to say, I was going to take out this silver snake gall for everyone to bid on, but I didn't expect you to lose interest because of my negligence. Speaking of this, he paused on purpose, as if he wanted someone to bid with Shu Yufan. Huang Hao and Zhang Tu, who were destined to win, looked calm at this time, and had no intention of joining forces. Ling Yudi had no choice but to pick up the own words, I want to exchange for some medicine pills. As for spirit stones and magical items, there is no demand. In exchange for a medicine pill, hey, that's exactly what I mean. Shu Yufan was secretly delighted. He lacked everything, except the qi refining pills that the cultivator took during the qi refining period. Shu Yufan pretended to ponder for a while, and then made a heartbroken expression. I happen to have 2 bottles of qi refining pills, a total of 30 pills. I wonder if Ling fellow Taoist is willing to trade with me. Then, he took out 2 small porcelain bottles from the storage bag. Seeing the porcelain bottle in Shu Yufan's hand, all the people present showed strange looks in their eyes. 30 qi refining pills, that would allow them to improve their cultivation base a lot. If the Gengu qualifications are high, it is possible to directly increase their realm by 1 level. 30 grains. Ling Yudi took a breath. Can you show me the quality of medicine pill? Seeing Ling Yudi's reaction, Xu Yufan secretly sighed in his heart. The bid was too high, and the other party would probably agree to 25 pills. It seems that he is still too impatient. However, this idea was quickly dismissed, and now the main thing is to get the silver snake gall. As long as he has enough time for this kind of qi refining pill, he can have as many as he wants. Xu Yufan handed the small porcelain bottle to Ling Yudi, who took it, then quickly opened the lid and poured out one. The color is slightly green, and the quality is high. Ling Yudi showed joy, put the qi refining pill back into the bottle, and put it directly into the storage bag. This silver snake gut belongs to fellow Taoist. Excited in Xu Yufan's heart, he grabbed the jade box in his hand, carefully looked at the root hairs. There were still more than half of it, so let go of his heart. Cover the jade box and store it in a storage bag. Haha, foundation establishment is 1/9 completed. An hour later, the trade fair ended, and Ling Yudi and others walked out of the valley one after another. Xu Yufan stayed where he was, and after everyone left, Xu Yufan took out a quail egg-sized bead and an arm-length exquisite sword case from the storage bag. Both of these magical items were traded back by Xu Yufan from Huang Hao. Xu Yufan obtained a total of 3 magical items and 1 elixir from this trade fair. The elixir is the silver snake gall, and the magical item is a set of formations in the bead, sword case and storage bag in the hand. This bead is called the concealment bead, and it is a magical item that can hide the cultivation base. The cultivator wears this hidden bead, and can adjust the cultivation base at will, and can hide the cultivator of the late stage of the foundation establishment period at most. Xu Yufan was just worried that the cultivation base was advancing too fast, which would arouse the suspicion of those who cared about it, and this hidden gem solved his problem. And that sword box is an incomplete magic treasures passed down from ancient times. It was Zhang Sheng who got it by chance. It is better to say that it is a waste product than to say that it is incomplete magic treasures. Because the inside of this sword box is empty, according to the structure inside, this sword box should have 11 flying swords. Perhaps because of the age, all the flying swords in it are lost. The sword box has also become an empty box, with no use other than being pretty. Xu Yufan spent 100 yuan to buy the low-grade spirit stones from Zhang Tu, all because the sword box gave him a sense of familiarity. A feeling of déjà vu. But after getting it, Xu Yufan carefully checked it several times inside and out, but found no useful information. This made him feel that he had lost his grandma's house. Putting the concealment bead on his hand, putting the sword box back into the storage bag, Xu Yufan sat in the same place for another 2 sticks of incense, and then slowly walked out of the valley. As soon as Xu Yufan left the valley, he rushed towards the opposite direction of Qian Yuanzong. Everyone at the trade fair knew that he was a disciple of Qian Yuanzong, and if they wanted to kill him, they would definitely lie in ambush on the way back to Qian Yuanzong. Of course, it's not that Xu Yufan predicted that the other party would intercept him, but that in this dangerous cultivation world, everything is so cautious. I have shown my extremely strong financial resources at the trade fair, and I am alone, so it is inevitable that some people will have malicious intentions in their hearts. Xu Yufan ran all the way, but just after running for several miles, he suddenly felt a cultivator chasing him from behind. Xu Yufan frowned, and after a little thought, he turned in a different direction. However, the people behind still followed closely. It seems that I really guessed it right, and someone at the fair has malicious intentions. While running, Xu Yufan secretly guarded himself, ready to enter the Great Thousand World at any time. At this time, those repairmen in the rear. The scholar is almost catching up with him. It seems that he really has to catch him. Xu Yufan's thoughts changed sharply, and he had an idea as soon as he rolled his eyes. Xu Yufan stopped. Not long after, the pursuing cultivator behind him has arrived. Xu Yufan squinted his eyes when he saw the chasing own cultivator, and chuckled lightly. Hee, Zhang fellow Taoist and Ling fellow Taoist are reluctant to leave. Do you want to send them on the next trip? It was Zhang Tu and Ling Yudi who came. When Zhang Tu heard this, his eyes flickered, but he said nothing. And Ling Yudi smiled coquettishly. Hey, what Xu fellow Taoist said is good, we are reluctant to part with Shu Fellow Taoist's medicine pill, so we will see if we can ask Shu Fellow Taoist for a few more bottles. At this time, there were two swishing sounds, and two more figures appeared on the other two sides of Shu Yufan. They were Wang Yu from Sunset Cloud Valley and rogue cultivators Li Wu. The four surrounded Shu Yufan in the center. He, the fellow Taoist Wang and the fellow Taoist are here too. Ah, why don't the other fellow Taoists show up? Shu Yufan's expression remained the same, without any fear. Are you talking about my junior sister Hu Yuner and my fellow Taoist's little brother Zhang Sheng? Ling Yudi asked. Before Shu Yufan could answer, she said it herself. Zhang fellow Taoist loves my brother dearly and didn't let him participate, but junior sister who is kind-hearted, if we let her know we won't use it to intercept and kill you. As for Huang Hao's two senior brothers, you were invited by them, so we naturally can't take the risk of pulling them to intercept and kill you. Quote. Shu Yufan nodded again and again. This Ling Yudi is really a scheming whore. HMPH, Shu fellow Taoist, hand over the storage bag wisely, and we can still spare you from dying. If you are stubborn and don't talk about your life, I'm afraid you won't even be able to keep your soul. Zhang Tu over there became impatient, and said with a murderous look on his face. The four of you are besieging my little 8th level cultivator of the chi refining stage together, it's too much to make a big deal out of a molehill. Shu Yufan joked. Shu fellow Taoist was joking, you can take out so many chi refining pills, presumably your status in Qianyuanzong is not low, so you may not have any means to save your life. The four of us join forces to deal with you, just to be safe. Quote. Ling Yudi smiled coquettishly. What she said makes sense. Shu Yufan nodded approvingly and said, Ling fellow Taoist is really thoughtful, Shu admires it. Since this is the case, will fellow Taoist hand over the storage bag to save his life, or will he fight with us, be beheaded by us and then seize the storage bag? Ling Yudi withdrew her smile, showing murderous intent. Shu Yufan shook his head. No. This is not the result I want. Ling Yudi narrowed her eyes slightly. What I want is, your life and storage bags. Quote. As soon as Shu Yufan finished speaking, Vajra appeared in front of everyone out of thin air. The faces of Ling Yudi and the others changed, they didn't know how the white ape appeared in front of them. Yes, it's the Foundation establishment period demonic beasts. Zhang Tu's eyes widened and his face turned pale. Run. Ling Yudi didn't hesitate at all, roared angrily, turned and ran away. I want to run, it's too late. Shu Yufan revealed a look of disdain. Xiao Jin, don't leave anyone behind. Yes, boss. Vajra smiled cruelly. When the voice fell to the ground, Vajra's figure disappeared instantly, and the next moment came in front of Zhang Tu. What? Zhang Tu screamed. The body fell directly from midair and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the three of Ling Yudi's expressions changed drastically, and they fled in a hurry. Let's run separately. They all know that the power of the Foundation establishment demonic beasts is far beyond their own imagination. It's just how can you escape from the mere chi refining period? Vajra dodged and chased after Wang Bing, and blasted out a huge ape fist. Wang Bing felt the sense of danger coming from behind, and his face changed drastically. Hastily resorted to a sword art, and the sword glow was fleeting, stabbing at Vajra. Vajra let the sword light stab at him with contempt. Boom! Wang Bing's whole body was shattered by Vajra's punch, turning into blood mist. Vajra flashed in front of Li Wu again. Seeing Wang Bing's death, Li Wu was terrified in his heart. Hastily sacrificed the treasure to block in front of him. PFF'd. Vajra broke through the artifact's defenses effortlessly. With one punch, Li Wu was sent flying. What? Plop! Li Wu hit the ground heavily, and his whole body fell apart. Ling Yudi, who had escaped the farthest, was so frightened that she frantically activated the magic power in her body. Like looking at an ant, Vajra jumped behind Ling Yudi. He grabbed Ling Yudi's arm. Let go, let me go, you. You dare not hurt me, otherwise, my father will definitely not let you go. Ling Yudi trembled with fright, her face pale. Her voice trembled. Ha ha, little girl, give Grandpa Ape a smile. Vajra laughed. Ling Yudi was even more flustered when she heard Vajra's ridicule. No. Don't kill me, I will promise you anything you want. My father is the deputy owner of Sunset Cloud Valley. Oh, really? It's a pity that I only want to kill people, and I don't care what kind of deputy valley owner you are. If you dare to intercept and kill my boss, die for me." After Vajra finished speaking, he exerted force with his palm and slapped Ling Yudi. Puff! Ling Yudi's body instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Vajra beheaded Ling Yudi and others in the front, and Shu Yufan picked up the storage bag in the back. Every time he picked up a storage bag, Shu Yufan had to laugh for a while. It feels so good to kill and rob. Shu Yufan picked up Li Wu's storage bag and jumped to Vajra. This time Vajra just slapped Ling Yudi into blood mist. Shu Yufan cheerfully picked up Ling Yudi's storage bag. "Xiaojin, what were you muttering to Ling Yudi just now?" Shu Yufan asked curiously. "I didn't mutter anything. She said that her father is the deputy owner of Sunset Cloud Valley," Vajra said calmly. Shu Yufan staggered and almost lost his footing. "Let's get out of here quickly." Saying so, jumped on Vajra's back. Vajra was at a loss, but followed Shu Yufan's advice. Vajra carried Shu Yufan on his back and ran all the way in the wind, away from the killing scene in the blink of an eye. "Boss, why are you running so fast? Why don't you tap our booty?" Vajra asked in bewilderment. Luoxia Valley is a sect that can keep pace with Qianyuanzong. Now that you have beheaded the daughter of the vice master of the opposite valley, do you want to return to the sect quickly? Shu Yufan asked with a smile. As soon as Vajra heard it, Qian Yuanzong rushed away with full power. 2 days later, Qian Yuanzong. As soon as Shu Yufan returned to his own immortal cave, Chen Tian quietly appeared in front of him. "Brother Chen, can you show up normally in the future? For example, knock on the door and shout something." Shu Yufan patted his chest and looked at Chen Tian with a resentful expression, wishing he could rub him on the ground. "Hee, junior brother Shu is really good at joking. I have this ability, why do I need to do so much?" Chen Tian grinned. Shu Yufan. "Brother Shu, a few days. I can't see that the cultivation base has improved again, and it has reached the 8th level of qi refining." Quote. Chen Tian said with a smile. "Hey, senior brother Chen can see my cultivation base clearly." Shu Yufan was astonished. He wore the concealment bead and adjusted the cultivation base to the 7th level of qi refining. And Chen Tian saw through it at a glance. This cultivation base, can't imagine. "Just that broken pearl can't fool me," Chen Tian said lightly. Shu Yufan. "By the way, junior brother's trip to Zhangjiagu went smoothly this time?" Chen Tian asked again. "I almost can't come back," Shu Yufan said angrily. "Why did junior brother say that? Senior brother Chen, didn't you say that the Monkey King only has the strength of the 10th level of qi refining?" Chen Tian nodded. "That's right, the Monkey King only has the strength of the 10th level of the qi refining stage." "Refine you." Shu Yufan held back, did not exhale the fragrance, relieved his mood before continuing. "The Monkey King is obviously the cultivation base of the Foundation establishment realm. The fake news you gave me, brother, almost made me unable to come back." "Oh, it's true that I received false information, but the younger brother came back safely, and he also completed the task by the way," Chen Tian said meaningfully. Shu Yufan felt a thump in his heart, and immediately remembered that Chen Tian knew about the existence of Vajra. In other words, Chen Tian knew that the Monkey King and Beastmaster Lin Weixia were in Zhangjiagu. "Let me go, is this guy testing his own strength? Hee, by the way, what's the matter with senior brother coming to visit?" Shu Yufan quickly changed the topic, and continued the discussion, wondering if he would ask where Vajra went. "Oh, it's nothing, but Sect's treasure pavilion has lost a lot of cultivation technique cheats, and Zhang Yang, who manages the first floor of the treasure pavilion, has been captured. The guy said you stole it." Quote. Chen Tian's tone remained old and flat, without the slightest worry, and even a little gloating. "What?" Shu Yufan almost jumped up in shock. "Zhang Yang actually said that I stole the cultivation technique cheat book. How is this possible? I just returned to sect." Shu Yufan's heart beat wildly. Didn't it come too suddenly? Chen Tian shook his head. "I don't know about this either. I also came here to remind my junior brother, if you want to come later, the elder of Qianyuanzong will come to you." "Thank you, brother Chen, for reminding me." Shu Yufan thanked him sincerely. Although Chen Tian didn't know whether it was good or bad, he seemed to always appear at critical moments, reminding himself. "Okay, I've already told you what I want to say. I still have something to do, so I'll go back first. Junior brother, take care. After Chen Tian finished speaking, before Xu Yufan could speak, he disappeared into the immortal cave out of thin air. Xu Yufan felt envious again when he could reach Chen Tian's strength. Soon, Xu Yufan came back to his senses, and now he still has to deal with the matter of the treasure pavilion. He took away more than 100 cultivation technique cheat books by himself, and it stands to reason that Zhang Yang didn't know about it. At that time, I went in and out of the treasure pavilion normally, and the formation there didn't even sound an alarm. In other words, Zhang Yang is also guessing randomly, and there is no actual evidence. If Qianyuanzong's senior officials really confirmed that he was the one who stole more than 100 cultivation technique cheat books, then he would not be able to return to Immortal Cave safely. I'm afraid someone has already gone to Zongjiagu to capture him. Chen Tian said that there will be Qianyuanzong elder looking for him in a while, so it should be just an interview and investigation, and there is not much danger. At that time, as long as I bite to death without knowing it, everything will be fine. Thinking of this, Xu Yufan's flustered heart suddenly calmed down. This pot, Zhang Yang is determined, Xu Yufan said, no one can stop it. Chapter 51. With confidence in his heart, Xu Yufan sat quietly in the immortal cave and waited for the elder in the door to come. I have the last hole card, Great Thousand Worlds, as long as I can hide in it, even if the Golden Core boss comes out, I can't do anything to him. When returning from Zongjiagu, Vajra caught a lot of pheasants and hares and threw them into the mountain world. Staying inside, eating is not a problem, and the elixir planted inside is abundant and grows fast enough for Xu Yufan pill refining to reach the peak of the 10th level of qi refining. In short, Xu Yufan has enough backup players, no matter what the result is, he can accept it. After sitting in the immortal cave for a while, someone came outside the door. The inner discipline Xu Yufan can be found in the immortal cave. A loud voice came. Xu Yufan's heart shuddered, he got up and walked out of the immortal cave. Restrictions opened, and a familiar figure stood in midair. Xu Yufan narrowed his eyes, then his face changed, and he bowed his head to the cupped hands of the man in the air. Disciple Xu Yufan met Sun Elder. The person who came was Sun Liancheng, who presided over the promotion competition that day. Sun Liancheng was taken aback when he saw Xu Yufan. Hey, it's you kid. Apart from Chen Tian, Xu Yufan made an impression on him. But he only remembered Xu Yufan, but didn't know his name. Now when I see Xu Yufan, I immediately think of it. Xu Yufan's heart changed suddenly, and he immediately understood the meaning of Sun Liancheng's words. Sun Elder still remembers me as a junior, what a blessing for junior. But Sun Liancheng waved his hand, and his face returned to his original serious look. This elder is here to take you to the main palace of Qianyuan, you can go with me. Although Xu Yufan already knew Sun Liancheng's purpose in his heart, he still showed a panicked look. Ah, go to the main hall of Qianyuan. I don't know why Sun Elder took his disciples to the main hall. Stop talking nonsense, you will know when you go. As he spoke, he made a point towards Xu Yufan, took out another flying sword from the storage bag, and lifted Xu Yufan to the flying sword. Then it flew straight to the main hall, and the flying sword that Xu Yufan was stepping on followed steadily behind him. Xu Yufan showed a look of surprise, what Sun Liancheng did was really cool. The cultivator of the foundation establishment period was indeed terrifying. Much better than Vajra's foundation establishment period demonic beasts. However, he forgot that Sun Liancheng is 2 small realms taller than Vajra. Stepping on the flying sword, soaring in the air, this is the first time Xu Yufan stands at such a high position to see the scenery. Ah no, this is the first time to fly at such a high position. After about a stick of incense, Sun Liancheng brought Xu Yufan to the front of a group of mountain peaks, and saw Sun Liancheng take out a jade plaque, which was crystal clear and translucent, many times more advanced than his identity plaque. Open, Sun Liancheng said softly, and Xu Yufan saw a road appearing in the middle of the mountains. The road was winding and winding, but it obviously led to the peak of the highest mountain in the mountains. Xu Yufan was a little stunned, he didn't expect that there were formation restrictions in the inner sect. It seems that these peaks are the real core of Qianyuanzong. The inner sect he is in is only the outermost layer of Qianyuanzong, not much higher than the outer sect. Let's go, the main peak above is where the main hall is, go to the main hall with Ben Elder to meet the head and others. Yes, Elder Sun, Shu Yufan replied respectfully. This time, Sun Liancheng didn't fly, and he also took back what was under Shu Yufan's feet. The two walked up the steps made of white jade one after the other. Not long after, the two came to the top of the mountain, and a quaint and majestic great hall appeared in front of Shu Yufan. This is the main hall of Qianyuanzong, the Qianyuan sect leader hall that has survived for thousands of years. Shu Yufan looked at the great hall in front of him, and couldn't help feeling like bowing down. But with a strong will, Shu Yufan forcibly suppressed this will. Sun Liancheng, who was walking in front, turned his head subconsciously, and was surprised to see that Shu Yufan's face was determined, and he was not affected by the majestic aura of the main hall. When the disciples in the Qi refining stage saw this main hall for the first time, few of them were as unaffected as Shu Yufan. When he first entered the main hall, his legs were slightly bent, and he almost knelt down. It seems that he underestimated the kid in front of him. Sun Liancheng sighed in his heart. Seeing Sun Liancheng standing still and turning his head to glance at himself with triangular eyes, Shu Yufan was puzzled. He arched his cupped hands, and asked respectfully, Sun Elder, but what did the disciple do wrong? Sun Liancheng came back to his senses and shook his head. It's the first time I saw the main hall, and the one who is not affected at all like you is Chen Tian, who advanced to the inner sect with you. After finishing speaking, he turned his head and strode towards the main hall. Shu Yufan touched, rubbing the back of his head, he complained in his heart, Brother Chen might be higher than your cultivation base, how could this broken great hall affect him? Thinking of Chen Tian's elusive behavior, Shu Yufan couldn't help but tremble in his heart, that guy is too scary. Following Sun Liancheng into the great hall, there are 7 stone chairs carved from unknown stones above the main hall. Among them, there is one in the center at the top, and 3 on each side. 5 of the 7 stone chairs are already occupied, and there are 2 empty seats left on the right. You stay here, Sun Liancheng whispered to Shu Yufan, then went straight to one of the empty seats on the upper right and sat down. Shu Yufan slightly looked at the 6 big bosses sitting above. The one in the middle is a middle-aged man in purple clothes, slender and handsome, with a gentle smile on his face, shaking a folding fan in his hand, and a pair of deep and blurred eyes. This is Zhou Chengqing, the contemporary head of Qianyuanzong, Foundation Establishment Late-Stage Cultivation Base. Sitting on the first stone chair on the left was an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion. He looked healthy, but there was a trace of sharpness hidden in his eyes. This white-haired old man is Li Changshou, one of the 2 sect leaders of Qianyuanzong, Foundation Establishment Late-Stage Cultivation Base. Sitting on the first stone chair on the right is a young man named Zhongqing, Foundation Establishment Late-Stage Cultivation Base, who, like Li Changshou, is the deputy sect leader of Emperor Qianyuanzong. Zhongqing's face is stern, his eyes are firm, and his aura is restrained yet sharp. He is staring at the top of the main hall at this time, not knowing what he is thinking. His eyes moved to the second stone chair on the left, which was an old man in black. The old man's face was haggard and ugly, but there was a vicious and sinister look in his eyes. His gaze was directed at Shu Yufan, who was standing aside, making Shu Yufan feel numb all over, as if he was being stared at by something. This is Hu Zhiping, one of the 3 elders of sect, Foundation Establishment Middle Stage Cultivation Base. The stone chair below him was a middle-aged man with a kind face and a smile on his face. He looked like an ordinary person, but Shu Yufan felt that these people sitting at the moment were full of unspeakable pressure. This is also Zhou Hai, one of the 3 elders of Qianyuanzong. In addition to Sun Liancheng, who brought him up, they are the 6 most powerful people in Qianyuanzong, one with 2 assistants and 3 elders. As soon as Sun Liancheng sat down, he said, brothers, this is Shu Yufan. As soon as Sun Liancheng spoke, the 5 of them looked at Shu Yufan in unison. Disciple Shu Yufan has seen the sect leader, 2 deputy sect leaders, and 3 elders. Shu Yufan bent over cupped hands, and said in a respectful voice. In the entire cultivation world, no matter how old a cultivator is, there is no need to bow down. No need to be polite. The head, Zhou Chengqing, said something lightly, in a mellow yet majestic tone. Afterwards, the big guys lingered on Shu Yufan for a while, then looked away, glanced at each other, and finally returned to their original appearance. Shu Yufan, do you know why we called you here? The headmaster Zhou Chengqing's mellow voice sounded again. Although it was far away, Shu Yufan felt as if he was speaking right next to his ear. Shu Yufan's heart trembled. He lowered his head and said, I don't know why the sect leader called his disciples to come to the main hall. HMPH, good Shu Yufan, how dare you pretend not to know the cultivation technique cheats when you steal the treasure pavilion? Deputy sect leader Li Chengshou asked sharply. The voice carried the power of the soul, which made Shu Yufan tremble. Deputy sect leader, I am wronged, this disciple never stole the cultivation technique cheat book from the treasure pavilion. Shu Yufan exclaimed, raised his head to defend himself, and said urgently. As soon as Shu Yufan finished speaking, he was stared at by several big bosses and felt a strong pressure. Shu Yufan was sweating coldly on his forehead, and his heart was beating like a drum. You still dare to quibble? Li Chengshou shouted angrily. This disciple really didn't steal the cultivation technique cheats from the treasure pavilion. Please ask the sect leader, deputy sect leader, and elders to find out. The disciple only went to the treasure pavilion once. How can he steal the cultivation technique inside? Cheats. Shu Yufan emphasized again. HMPH, who else would it be if it wasn't you? Zhang Yang, the manager of the treasure pavilion, said that you, Shu Yufan, stole the cultivation technique secret book. Li Chengshu's eyes suddenly turned cold. It's not what the disciple did, it must be Zhang Yang who lied and slandered the disciple. Shu Yufan continued with his head down. What a sharp-mouthed kid, you say Zhang Yang is lying? Li Chengshou asked with a sneer. Exactly. Li Chengshou wanted to say more, but Zhang Qing, who is also the deputy sect leader, said, Brother Chengshou, since Shu Yufan denies the theft and said that Zhang Yang was slandering, why don't you bring Zhang Yang to confront him? Well, junior brother Zhang said he had to make a mistake, so he ordered someone to bring Zhang Yang up. Sect leader Zhou Chengshou nodded in agreement. Li Chengshou nodded. If this is very good, so I asked someone to bring Zhang Yang up. Quote. After finishing speaking, he pinched a formula. But half a cup of tea time. A young man leads an old man into the main hall. The young man Shu Yufan didn't know him, but the old man was none other than Zhang Yang. At this moment, Zhang Yang looked haggard, his face was sallow, his clothes were dirty, and he completely lost the air he had when he was working as a steward in the treasure pavilion. Zhang Yang entered the great hall, and when he saw Shu Yufan, his eyes were bloodshot immediately, as if he wanted to tear Shu Yufan apart. But due to the fact that they were in the main hall, there were still 6 big bosses of Qianyuanzong sitting above them, so they could only bow their heads and dare not speak. Disciple C sect leader, deputy sect leader, elder, Zhang Yang has brought it. The young man bowed his cupped hands to salute, and said respectfully. Go down. Zhou Chengqing waved his hand, and the young man left. After the young man left the great hall, Zhou Chengqing said to Zhang Yang, do you know why you were called here? The disciple doesn't know, please ask the sect leader to clarify. Zhang Yang bowed his head, still lowered his head, speaking in a weak voice. HMPH, well, since that's the case, then I'll ask you in person. Zhou Chengqing sneered. Zhang Yang's face turned pale, his eyes were full of fear, his body couldn't help shaking slightly, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Zhang Yang, more than 100 cultivation technique cheat books have been lost in the treasure pavilion, are you the one who stole them? Zhou Chengqing stared at Zhang Yang and asked. Zhang Yang trembled and his face turned black. Zhang Yang faltered, not knowing how to answer. He glanced at Shu Yufan beside him from the corner of his eyes. He gritted his teeth, shook his head and denied. The sect leader clearly found out that it was Shu Yufan who stole the cultivation technique cheat book, not a disciple. On that day, Shu Yufan came to Zhangbao Pavilion to borrow cultivation technique, but the empty jade slip at that time was used up, so the disciple asked Shu Yufan to come back next time. Unexpectedly, Shu Yufan was ambitious and resentful, and stole more than 100 copies of the cultivation technique cheats. Quote. Shu Yufan's expression was normal, and he had expected this earlier. But he didn't expect Zhang Yang, an old man, to open his eyes and tell nonsense really well. Shu Yufan, what do you say? Zhou Chengqing asked sharply. Sect leader, can this disciple ask Brother Zhang 2 questions? Xu Yufan asked in a deep voice. Can. Zhou Chengqing nodded slightly. Brother Zhang, I ask you, how many cultivation technique cheat books are there? Can the storage bag issued by sect to the inner disciple hold more than 100 cultivation technique cheat books? Xu Yufan stared at Zhang Yang and asked every word. Hearing that Xu Yufan actually mentioned the storage bag of the inner discipline, Zhou Chengqing and others. People showed surprise. This can't fit in. Zhang Yang hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. As soon as I finished speaking, I felt that this was not good for me, so I added again, who knows how many storage bags you have, 1 can't fit, 2 can't fit, and 3 can't fit. Facing Zhang Yang's unreasonable words, Xu Yufan did not refute. The faces of Qian Yuanzong's bosses immediately became ugly. So Zhang Yang is a fool, he really thinks that the storage bag is very cheap. Before they reprimanded Zhang Yang, Xu Yufan raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Even though I have several storage bags, I dare to ask Senior Brother Zhang, is there any formation restrictions in the treasure pavilion? Yes, yes, Zhang Yang returned stammeringly. Can the formation restrictions of the treasure pavilion be opened? Xu Yufan asked again. Yes, the restrictions in the treasure pavilion are all enabled. Zhang Yang replied. Since there are restrictions in the treasure pavilion, and Senior Brother Zhang has also opened it, if I really stole the cultivation technique cheat book, it shouldn't be that I sent the alarm before I walked out of the treasure pavilion and let Senior Brother Zhang catch it. Xu Yufan's eyes were piercing, and he asked with a sneer. Ah, this. Zhang Yang's tone froze, not knowing how to answer. The bosses above looked like they wanted to see through Zhang Yang. HMPH, Zhang Yang, what else do you want to argue? Li Chengshou clapped him up and asked sharply. Zhang Yang was so frightened that his body shook again. He quickly said, I dare not argue, it is really not my fault. HMPH, you're still quibbling at this point. I advise you to be honest. Sun Liancheng glared at Zhang Yang. I really did not steal the cultivation technique cheat book, there is no need for disciples to quibble. It is possible that the formation restrictions have failed, so. Zhang Yang began to speak incoherently. As soon as these words came out of his mouth, Hu Zhiping, who had been silent all this time, stared with a cold light in his eyes. You are looking for death. He personally arranged the formation restrictions in Zhangbao Pavilion. Now that Zhang Yang said that the formation restrictions were invalid, he would be the one to blame him. Zhang Yang saw a trace of murderous intent emanating from Hu Zhiping's body, and was so frightened that he trembled all over his body. No, Hu Elder, the cultivation technique that Xu Yufan asked his disciples to re-record is gone, it must be him, ah. Hu Zhiping stretched out his hand, squeezed the void, and saw Zhang Yang's face flushed red, unable to speak, and then a loud bang exploded, turning into a cloud of blood mist. Hu Zhiping clapped his hands again, and the blood mist disappeared out of thin air. Hu Zhiping frightened Xu Yufan directly. This person is too irritable, he raised his hand and killed him if he said something wrong. Xu Yufan was sweating coldly on his forehead, and his palms were already ready. As long as the 6 people above showed any murderous intent, he would slap himself and hide in the great thousand world. However, everyone else had a flat face, as if they had expected such a result long ago. Ahem, although Zhang Yang is dead, this matter cannot be left alone. Zhou Chengqing coughed a few times, with a hint of dissatisfaction in his tone. Then how to deal with this kid? Li Chengshou pointed to Xu Yufan and asked. There are indications that the loss of the treasure pavilion has nothing to do with him. Let him go back. Sun Liancheng glanced at Xu Yufan with half-closed eyes, and said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Hai retorted. Junior brother Sun is too hasty. Although it is impossible for him to do the theft, it does not mean that he is not an accomplice. A disciple who has just joined the inner sect, how can there be any accomplices? Is brother Zhou taking it for granted? Sun Liancheng said sarcastically. Zhou Hai wanted to say more, but the leader Zhou Chengqing saw that the momentum was not right, and immediately interrupted. Okay, let's discuss this matter later, let him go back first, and wait for what happens. The head spoke, and the others naturally had no opinion. Well, that's very good. Sun Liancheng nodded, and then said to Xu Yufan. Xu Yufan, you go back for now, remember, don't leave Immortal Cave. Hearing this, Xu Yufan breathed a sigh of relief. The big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. Thank you to the three masters. The three elders are aware of the details, so the disciple will leave first. Xu Yufan cupped hands saluted, turned around and walked out of the great hall slowly. Although I was so nervous that I was going to die, I could only force myself to remain calm. Walking out of the main hall, Xu Yufan let out a long sigh of relief. This time the crisis has finally passed temporarily. I hope that there will be no more accidents in the coming time. At the same time, Xu Yufan is more determined to upgrade the cultivation base quickly, otherwise his life will always be in the hands of others. After Xu Yufan went out, the main hall fell into silence for a while. After about half a stick of incense had passed, Li Changshu finally couldn't help but speak. Brother sect leader, Zhang Yang was appointed by you back then. Now that this happened, how do you think about it? As soon as Li Changshu said this, the other four people also. They all set their sights on Zhou Changqing, the leader. What do you mean by junior brother? Zhou Changqing asked back calmly. Li Changshu was not polite either. With a serious face and a dignified look, Zhang Yang's case is not an exception, and there are many disciples who derelict their duties and guard themselves. I think it is necessary to rectify and change the previous atmosphere. Quote, HMPH, Senior Brother Changshu, if you want to fight for a position in the sect for your disciples, just say it straight. Why bother to say it in such a high-sounding manner? Zhou Hai, who had been silent all the time, suddenly snorted coldly, with a sneer on his face. He was standing on the front line with Zhou Changqing, the leader. Li Changshu fought back, so he would naturally take the lead in counter-attacking. He, junior brother Zhou, what you said is wrong. I am the elder of Qianyuanzong. Naturally, I am thinking of sect. I have absolutely no selfishness in this regard. Li Changshu was not irritated either, but smiled instead. HMPH, standing up again. Zhou Hai murmured without saying a word. Even Li Changshu, who had a thick skin, couldn't help but blush when he heard this. Junior brother Zhang, junior brother Hu, and junior brother Sun also think the same way. The leader Zhou Changqing asked calmly. Zhang Qing and Hu Zhiping looked at each other and nodded together. Sun Liancheng didn't know when to close his eyes, as if he had nothing to do with him. 3 against 2, plus this matter is indeed a major problem with the people on my side. This time it is really going to bleed a little. Zhou Changqing could only sigh in his heart. Since the 3 juniors all mean this, then I won't say anything more. From next month, the 3 medium-sized spirit stones mines in sect will be managed by Li Shidi, Zhang Shidi and Hu Shidi. The small spirit stones mine has also increased from the previous 1 to 2. Quote. As soon as Zhou Changqing said this, Zhou Hai's face changed drastically, and he immediately shouted, Senior brother, this. He was stared at by Zhou Changqing before he finished speaking, and swallowed back the words that were almost on his lips. Li Changshu, Zhang Qing, and Hu Zhiping were overjoyed in their hearts. Adding 2 spirit stones mines at once is equivalent to a large number of spirit stones every year. At that time, whether it is self-cultivation or training disciples, it will be an extremely important resource. How can this make them unhappy? Zhou Hai was very unconvinced, but he had no choice but to sit back on the stone chair heavily. It's no wonder that Zhou Hai objected, all of a sudden less. 6 spirit stones mines, that's really cutting flesh from him. 3 junior brothers, do you still have any objections to this arrangement? Zhou Changqing glanced at the other 3 people and asked. It was too late for the 3 of Li Changshu to be happy, so there was no objection. Immediately shook his head, expressing that he had no opinion. Junior brother Sun, what about you? Zhou Changqing finally looked at Sun Liancheng and asked. Among the 6 people, only Sun Liancheng was dedicated to Taoism, and he was indifferent to all affairs of sect, especially when it came to power struggle. He was even more disgusted. Sun Liancheng opened his eyes, shook his head and said, I have no objection. After finishing speaking, he closed his eyes and meditated again. Only then did Zhou Changqing nod his head. Okay, let's stop this matter, let's leave if there is nothing else. Qianyuanzong's power distribution this time is officially over. Except for Zhou Hai, Li Changshu got up and left one after another. After the 4 left, a cold light appeared in Zhou Changqing's calm eyes. The expression on his face also became cloudy and uncertain. Zhou Hai felt a pang of anger in his heart. Senior brother, is the spirit stone's mine really going to be split up for them to take care of? Zhou Chengqing glanced at Zhou Hai coldly, and said, otherwise. Zhou Hai suffocated, sighed secretly in his heart, Zhongyang is really a waste, so he won't say more. Forget it, let them take care of it for 2 or 3 years at most, and then find a chance to get it back. The expression on Zhou Chengqing's face returned to Gu Jingwubo's. By the way, senior brother, what to do with the more than 100 copies of cultivation technique lost in the treasure pavilion? Do you want to report to the master? Zhou Hai suddenly remembered this matter. Zhou Chengqing shook his head when he heard the words, and said lightly, let's let this matter go. The treasure pavilion is full of rubbish. If you throw it away, just throw it away, don't disturb the master. Li Chengshou and the others just used this incident as a breakthrough to snatch the resources in my hands. Do you really think they care about those more than 100 copies of rubbish? Quote. Zhou Chengqing said, sneering again and again. Yes, senior sect leader. Zhou Hai said respectfully. By the way, how to deal with that kid named Xu Yufan in the refining period? Zhou Hai remembered that how to deal with Xu Yufan hadn't decided yet. Leave this matter to you. As for how to punish Xu Yufan, you decide. After speaking, Zhou Chengqing stood up and left the great hall. Yes, senior brother. Xu Yufan returned to the immortal cave, and took out the formation from the great thousand world that he bought from the trade fair. Arrange the formation according to the orientation, and then re-enter the great thousand world. According to what Huang Hao said, this formation is called the Lost Formation, which is a very practical formation. As long as one enters it, cultivators below the foundation establishment period cannot break the formation, and will lose their own direction in the formation. Even the early stage of the foundation establishment period requires some means to solve it. Xu Yufan wanted to buy a very good one, but he couldn't find it, so he had to make do with it. After entering the great thousand world, it is now full of singing birds and fragrant flowers, and it is no different from the outside world. Seeing Xu Yufan coming in, Vajra and Jerry rushed over. Xu Yufan asked Vajra to bring the storage bags obtained from killing Ling Yudi and others, and began to clean them one by one. These storage bags have everything: cultivation technique, magical item, medicine pill, spirit stones. Except for the chi refining pill he traded out, nothing could enter Xu Yufan's eyes. Finally found a book of attack spells in Ling Yudi's storage bag, but it was only suitable for women to practice. Xu Yufan was disappointed. In fact, it's no wonder Ling Yudi and the others, after all, what good things can a cultivator have during the chi refining period? Even if there was, it was already exchanged with Xu Yufan for chi refining pills. Xu Yufan threw all his belongings aside, and took out the Ling Yu Ju he got from Lin Weixia. This thing can increase divine sense. As long as the cultivation is successful, it can also increase a lot of strength. Xu Yufan is now extremely eager for his own strength. When he thinks of Hu Zhiping casually killing Zhang Yang, who is on the 10th floor of chi refining in the main hall, his neck will tighten and he will feel uncomfortable. In the immortal world, if you don't have absolute strength, you might be wiped out one day. The cultivation base on the 8th floor of my chi refining period is really no different from ants. Xu Yufan was thinking about it while checking the art of controlling the spirit. Quote. Keeping the spirit controlling Ju completely in his heart, Xu Yufan gathered his mind and began to practice spirit controlling Ju. Controlling the spirit mainly cultivates the power of the soul, that is, to enhance the divine sense's own soul attack. According to Jade Slip's records, it is not difficult to build the first floor. Practitioners need to divide own soul into several parts, and then let these divine sense blend with each other to form a powerful divine sense attack. At this time, divine sense can exert great power. But it's not easy. Under normal circumstances, the strength of the spirit. Weakness determines how tough divine sense is. The stronger the soul, the stronger the divine sense. And the weaker the person, the weaker the divine sense. The cultivation method of the art of controlling the spirit is somewhat similar to separating out a real person, and then fighting each other, consuming each other, and devouring each other. After the cultivator's soul power recovers, it will be divided into several parts, and then they will fight each other, consume each other, and devour each other. Repeat this until the power of the soul reaches 5 times that of the same rank cultivator, that is the first level of cultivation has been completed. To paraphrase a common saying, then raise Gu. According to the record of Jade Slip, Xu Yufan tried to divide the soul into 2 parts. A tearing pain hit. Xu Yufan snorted, held back the pain, gritted his teeth, and continued to practice. What? A scream came from his mouth. A sharp pain swept through the body. Cold sweat rolled down Xu Yufan's forehead, his face turned livid. A mouthful of blood spat out from the mouth. This practice is more painful than last time. Xu Yufan only felt that his whole soul was in pain like being cut by a knife. Xu Yufan gritted his teeth firmly. Persist in. Tell yourself over and over again, you must persevere. Xu Yufan's face turned pale, but he continued to divide his soul power. Finally, after half a stick of incense, Xu Yufan separated a ray of divine soul power. It's done. Although there were still bursts of pain in his mind, which made Xu Yufan almost collapse, he still couldn't help being surprised. Next, let the 2 soul powers fight and consume each other. Xu Yufan controls own 2 soul powers and starts to attack each other. Puff! Xu Yufan spat out a mouthful of blood again, and his whole body became a little dispirited. It's so uncomfortable. Xu Yufan endured the pain that his mind was going to explode, and continued to control the power of the soul to attack each other. This time Xu Yufan gritted his teeth and held on. After a stick of incense, the process of soul fighting was finally over, and the power of the soul was recombined from the previous 2, and it was much smaller than before. Xu Yufan let out a long sigh of relief. A gratified smile appeared on his pale as paper face. The first step of cultivation is considered a success. Next, Xu Yufan closed his eyes again, ready to proceed to the second step. This step is much simpler, and that is to nourish the power of the soul. Controlling the spirit has the effect of repairing the soul. Running, controlling the spirit, Xu Yufan began to absorb the spiritual qi wandering in the surrounding air. Spiritual qi enters the body, guided into the spirit by Xu Yufan, then began to slowly warm up the soul. During this process, Xu Yufan also kept absorbing the spiritual qi from the heaven and the earth to replenish the loss of his soul. As time passed, faint rays of light penetrated from the center of Xu Yufan's eyebrows, and then gathered to the center of the eyebrows, forming a circle. The soul circle slowly expands and becomes bigger. The aura in Xu Yufan's body was slowly rising. The dispirited expression gradually turned into normal. His pale as paper face also began to show blood. Time flies by, a day blinks by. Call. Xu Yufan opened his eyes and exhaled deeply. The experience just now made Xu Yufan feel like he had experienced a life and death battle, which made his heart palpitate and his whole body icy cold. Exhaling turbid air again, a smile appeared on Xu Yufan's face. It is the first time to practice controlling the spirit Ju officially. Xu Yufan also heaved a sigh of relief when he felt that the power of own spirit was a little stronger than last time. The pain I endured during the day was really not in vain. Xu Yufan did not continue to practice Ling Yu Ju. According to Jade Slip, the first stage is best to practice every other day. After all, splitting the soul is an extremely dangerous thing. If one is not careful, the soul is destroyed, not to mention the cultivation base, you will immediately become an idiot. Although he stopped practicing controlling the spirit, Xu Yufan did not leave the Great Thousand World, but took out 3 top-grade qi refining pills and put them in his mouth. Now he has to race against time, let his own cultivation base reach the peak of the 10th level of qi refining as soon as possible, and then find the foundation establishment Dan to advance to the foundation establishment stage. As soon as the 3 top-grade qi refining pills arrived in Xu Yufan's stomach, they exploded. Turned into a series of medicinal power, poured into the meridians. Xu Yufan collected his mind, began to refine the huge medicinal power, and sent it to Dantian little by little. Now that Xu Yufan's cultivation base is soaring, the medicinal power of the 3 top-grade qi refining pills can only be refined for 2 hours. 2 hours later, the medicinal power of the 3 top-grade qi refining pills was completely refined. The magic power in Xu Yufan Dantian is churning, and it can be clearly felt that the magic power is stronger than before. Xu Yufan opened his eyes and exhaled a foul breath. Without stopping the practice, Xu Yufan took out 3 top-grade qi refining pills from the storage bag, stuffed them into his mouth, and continued to meditate and refine. Time passed slowly, and the next morning, Xu Yufan walked out of the Great Thousand World and sat quietly in the immortal cave. Time passed. About half an hour later, Lin Dekong's voice came from outside the immortal cave. "Junior brother Xu, are you in the immortal cave?" Xu Yufan stood up, opened the formation, and went out to greet him personally. The two walked into the immortal cave together. Xu Yufan and Lin Dekong exchanged greetings after a few words. Afterwards, Lin Dekong asked Xu Yufan, "Brother Xu, I heard that more than 100 cultivation technique cheat books were stolen from the Zhengbao Pavilion, and you were also involved. Are you really involved in this matter?" Xu Yufan's heart moved. According to previous guesses, Zhou Chengqing and the others should not make this matter public. Now Lin Dekong knows, he must have heard the gossip. Xu Yufan didn't answer right away, but instead asked, "Senior brother Lin, this matter is kept secret by sect. I don't know how senior brother Lin knew it so clearly." Lin Dekong pondered for a while, and said, "I heard what my master said, and the younger brother doesn't know about it. I am the registered disciple of Hu Zhiping Elder." Xu Yufan suddenly realized that the ruthless Hu Zhiping was Lin Dekong's master. Suddenly remembered the last time Lin Dekong contradicted Cheng Kui, but the other party did not dare to attack. It turned out that it was because of Hu Zhiping. It really is different with the backstage, Xu Yufan sighed in his heart. But it seems that Lin Dekong still doesn't know what happened in the main hall yesterday. So he smiled and said, "Brother Lin, don't worry, I didn't participate in it. Zhang Yang did all this, I was just framed by him." Hearing this, Lin Dekong breathed a sigh of relief, and said, "Since that's the case, that's good. If junior brother Xu needs help with anything, you can come to me. By the way, have you completed the promotion task assigned to you by the deacon last time?" Lin Dekong continued to ask. "Brother, I'm sorry to bother you. Zhangjiaju's business has been completed, and I'm going to report it to the mission hall," Xu Yufan said. Lin Dekong nodded when he heard this, and he stood up. "If there is anything, junior brother, just come to me. Master just sent me a voice transmission, asking me to go to his place. Please pay more attention inside the door." Quote. "Well, senior brother Lin, let's go slowly." Xu Yufan cupped hands thanked. After Lin Dekong left, Xu Yufan sat in. After a while, they left the immortal cave and rushed to the mission hall. In the task hall, the disciple on duty is not Huang Zhang, he has already been replaced by another person. Xu Yufan took out the task jade slip, and handed over the described task process to the senior brother on duty. The man looked at it once, then nodded and said, "Okay, junior brother Xu, your task for this month has been completed, you can leave first." Xu Yufan nodded and walked out of the mission hall. Just as soon as the front foot stepped out, I heard the sound of calling, "Own," from behind. "Brother Xu, please stay." Xu Yufan looked back and saw a man running quickly from a distance with a tense expression on his face. This man was none other than Huang Zhang, whom he hadn't seen for over a month. "Brother Xu, stop," Huang Zhang shouted again. "Senior brother Huang, what do you want to tell junior brother?" Xu Yufan stopped in his tracks and waited quietly for Huang Zhang to come. Huang Zhang came to the front, let out a deep breath, and said, "Junior brother Xu, Cheng Deacon asked me to take you there to find him." Hearing this, Xu Yufan frowned slightly. What kind of stumbling block did Cheng Kui want to make? But after thinking about it, his task for this month has been completed, and he can't use the task to set him off again. Thinking of this, Xu Yufan nodded. "Then let's go, senior brother Huang." After all, the other party is a genuine foundation establishment period cultivator, or a deacon from the mission hall, so I can't do too much on the surface. Huang Zhang nodded. "Brother Xu, come with me." The two walked into the back of the task hall, and did not stop, but continued to move forward. Passing through a small gate, Huang Zhang led Xu Yufan to the depths of the mission hall and stopped in a stone room. Next to the gate of the stone room, there is a sign with the word deacon engraved on it. "Brother Xu, Cheng Deacon is inside, you go in." Huang Zhang stopped and said, "Thank you, senior brother Huang." Xu Yufan cupped his hands at Huang Zhangyi and said, "I'm going in." Huang Zhang waved his hand lightly, signaling him to go in. Xu Yufan took a step forward, walked to the door, and raised his hand to knock on the door. "Come in." Chang Kui's slightly hoarse voice came from the stone room. Xu Yufan pushed the door open and entered. With his back to Xu Yufan, Chang Kui was busy with the work in hand. He didn't seem to notice Xu Yufan's existence. Xu Yufan didn't say anything. He just stood where he was, without making a fuss. He wanted to see what tricks Chang Kui was going to play. After about half a stick of incense, Chang Kui turned around, raised his head, and kept looking at Xu Yufan. "Oh, nephew Xu, what are you doing standing up? Come here and sit down." Chang Kui pointed to the stool placed on the stone table. Xu Yufan pondered for a moment, stepped forward and sat on it. Chang Kui raised the jade slip in his hand, which was the one handed in by Xu Yufan just now. "Nephew Xu, that's right. You have accomplished this task very well. It is a blessing to be able to escape safely from the hands of the Monkey King on the 10th floor of Qi Refining." Chang Kui praised. In the task jade slip, Xu Yufan has a description, but the Monkey King in the Foundation establishment period has been changed to the 10th floor in the Qi Refining period, and of course Lin Weixia has also erased it. Hehe, it's not because the disciple has a good chance, but because of being a deacon. Xu Yufan also smiled and replied. "Huh, nephew Xu, what does this mean? This deacon has been in sect all along, why is it all thanks to me?" Chang Kui asked in bewilderment. Although Cheng Deacon is in the sect, but if the disciple is not thinking about Cheng Deacon and always reminds himself to repay Cheng Deacon, I am afraid that he will not be able to escape the palm of the Monkey King. Xu Yufan said with a smile. The irony in it is self-evident. At first Chang Kui didn't realize it, but when he understood the meaning of Xu Yufan's words, Chang Kui's expression changed suddenly, and his eyes narrowed. The meaning of Xu Yufan's words is obvious, that is, he wants to save his life and find Chang Kui to settle the score. HMPH, Xu Yufan, don't forget, you are just an inner disciple in the Qi refining period, and you dare to tease this deacon with words, you really don't know how to live or die. Chang Kui shouted coldly. The power of the cultivator during the Foundation establishment period was suddenly released. In an instant, the whole room was filled with strong spiritual pressure, which made the air in the room thinner. Xu Yufan was not afraid at all. With the magic power running in his body, he snorted coldly. HMPH, Cheng Deacon, this is Qianyuanzong, not your private domain of Cheng Deacon. Martial nephew asked himself that he didn't violate the sect prohibition at all. Don't you want to disregard Qianyuanzong's discipline and wantonly beat and kill his nephew? Quote. Yesterday, Xu Yufan was not afraid in front of the 6 big bosses of Qianyuanzong, and now he is naturally not afraid at all when facing this little Changkui. Chang Kui's face froze, and his eyes were round. Want to attack, but seemed to have scruples. There was a change on his face, and Chang Kui put on a smiling face again after the coercion was withdrawn. Haha, martial nephew Xu, I was just joking with you just now, to test your strength. As your elder, this deacon will naturally not bully the younger with the big. Quote. Xu Yufan sneered in his heart, but still cupped fist and said, Cheng Deacon, I don't know why you called me this time. Of course it's because of the loss of the cultivation technique cheat book in the treasure pavilion. Chang Kui said with a serious face. Xu Yufan's heart skipped a beat, is it finally coming? Chang Kui continued. It is reasonable to say that this matter has nothing to do with you, but so many cultivation technique cheats have been lost, you have been involved, and Zhang Yang is dead. You are alone in this whole incident, so sect has decided to hold you accountable. Quote. Xu Yufan's face changed, which he didn't expect. Did sect decide to make himself a scapegoat? But then it occurred to me that this was only the mission hall, and that it was Chang Kui who sent the message, not the senior who was in charge of punishment. It seems that this matter is not that simple. I don't know if it will be a deacon, but how does the sect decide to punish the disciple? Xu Yufan asked in a deep voice, with an uncertain expression on his face. Chang Kui smiled slightly, and said, according to the rules, the nephew is to be expelled from the sect, but this deacon thinks that such a punishment is undoubtedly a disaster for the nephew, so I beg the senior brother in charge to give it as lightly as possible. Xu Yufan sneered in his heart, well, you are a leader, you have a thick skin, and you can even say such words, it is really shameless. If sect wants to expel me from Qianyuanzong, you, Cheng Kui, will probably be the first to agree with it. Hehe, that nephew really has to thank Chang Deacon. There was a faint smile on the corner of Shu Yufan's mouth, and he looked quite sincere, but his tone was extremely weird, and there was a bit of yin and yang weirdness in his words. Chang Kui raised his eyebrows, a look of anger flashed across his face, and he said angrily in his heart, "Little fool, you won't last long, and in the next year, your life will definitely be worse than death." But soon Chang Kui's face returned to normal. He smiled and said, "Hee, it's only natural to love Junior." Shu Yufan didn't want to waste any more words, and asked directly, "Chang Deacon, how does sect decide to deal with nephew?" "Don't worry, nephew Shu, the punishment is not severe. After the sect's decision, it was decided to send you abroad for a year as a punishment," Chang Kui said with a smile. Shu Yufan squinted his eyes. He was sent abroad for a year, he immediately understood the meaning. This Chang Kui made a good plan. He left Qianyuanzong and lacked support, so he still has to make decisions outside. HMPH, everyone knows Sima Zhaoji's heart, and he is really vicious. But Shu Yufan wasn't worried. Since the other party had already shown their tricks, it was easier to deal with now. "Then, Deacon, where are you going to send me?" Shu Yufan continued to ask calmly. "Don't worry, nephew Shu, Ben Deacon has chosen a good place for you. Your current cultivation base is not high, and the entry time is not long, so it is not suitable for doing some difficult tasks. And now is the best time to improve the cultivation base." This deacon considered various reasons and finally decided to let you go to the Spirit Stones mine for a year. Quote, Chang Kui said with a smile. Spirit Stones mine. Shu Yufan was secretly startled. Chang Kui's move was so ruthless that he asked himself to go to a remote place to stay for a year. Even if he couldn't come back, it would be normal. After all, mining accidents or other accidents can always happen. Yes, Marshal Nephew Shu, there is a Spirit Stones mine thousands of miles north of my sect, so this deacon decided to let you go into exile in that Spirit Stones mine for a year. Nephew Shu, this is a good job. If you work in the Spirit Stones mine, you don't need to worry about practicing Spirit Stones every month, which is much more than in sect. Moreover, the Spirit Stones mines all have spiritual veins attached, and the intensity of spiritual chi is far higher than that of the inner discipline where you live. It's exile, it's 1,000 times more comfortable than a vacation, not to mention other things. I don't know how many people begged me to go to the Spirit Stones mine every month, but this deacon didn't agree. If I can give it to you, this deacon will see you it as the pillar of my Qianyuanzong, so I gave it to you. Baikyuku. Chang Kui was so frothy that he almost believed what he said. Oh, is that so? Then the nephew will bear the pain and give up this opportunity to other disciples who need to go to the Spirit Stones mine. Shu Yufan looked calm. Chang Kui was stunned for a moment, then laughed loudly and said, "Haha, I don't believe that position was chosen for you by Ben Deacon himself, you must go there." Dare to ask Chang Deacon, what did my nephew and nephew mainly do in the Spirit Stones mine for 1 year? Being a miner, mining. Chang Kui said each word. After speaking, he resisted the urge to laugh and stared at Shu Yufan. Smell. The muscles on Shu Yufan's face twitched a few times. Be a miner. You. Why are you bragging that you don't want to give it to others, you old fool? You are obviously a disciple of the outer sect, and now you let me be exiled to work as a miner in the Spirit Stones mine. This is to play with oneself nakedly. Of course, the deeper level must be to kill oneself. Shu Yufan had a sudden change in his mind. The miners of the Spirit Stones mine were suffering and heavy, and some outer sect disciples would often disappear. Chang Kui let himself be exiled to the Spirit Stones mine. It should be to get rid of himself in the Spirit Stones mine. I am afraid that going this time will be more or less auspicious. But in the current situation, I can't help but not agree. Although Chang Kui said that the 1-year exile is a sect decision, Shu Yufan doesn't believe it. But I couldn't find out from above. Since Chang Kui used this incident to plot against him, he must have something to rely on. If he refuses to be exiled, I am afraid that Chang Kui will be more happy, immediately raise his hand to kill himself, and then be charged with a crime of disobedience to sect's decision. Then Shu Yufan died in vain. After sorting everything out, Shu Yufan had the answer in his heart. Well, isn't it just a miner? Will I, Shu Yufan, still die in the Spirit Stones mine? Since it is a sect decision, the disciple must obey. Xu Yufan nodded and said calmly. When Cheng Kui heard this, a smile appeared on his face as if he had succeeded in a conspiracy. That's right, I want this effect to make you submit obediently. When you go to the Spirit Stone's mine, it's useless for you to escape even if you want to. At that time, life or death is not a matter of my words. Cheng Kui was secretly happy in his heart. How could Xu Yufan not see the little juju in Cheng Kui's heart, but he didn't reveal it, but still pretended to be nonchalant. Okay, Master Nephew Xu, since you agreed to be exiled to the Spirit Stone's mine for 1 year, then you should go back and prepare now, and we will set off in 3 days. Cheng Kui had an affectionate look on his face, which was so hypocritical that it made people want to vomit. Okay, disciple, let's go back and get ready, become deacon, and leave. Xu Yufan also saluted, got up from the stone chair, turned and left. Walking outside the stone room, the smile on Xu Yufan's face disappeared instantly, replaced by indifference and sarcasm. Looking at the faraway back, a cold light flashed in Cheng Kui's eyes, and he snorted coldly. HMPH, little beast, I want to see what you do when you get to the Spirit Stone's mine. At this time, a young man dressed in fine clothes came out from behind a small door next to the stone chamber. It was Zhou Guangzong who had had a dispute with Xu Yufan. Thank you, Uncle Cheng, for this, Zhou Guangzong said to the smiling Cheng Kui. Although he said thank you in the words, there was no gratitude at all in his tone. Although cultivation base is not as good as him now, the backstage is tough, and he is definitely not something he can offend. Hee, nephew of the great master, you are too polite, we are companions of the same camp, your business is naturally my business. Cheng Kui said. Well, since Martial Uncle Cheng said so, then I won't be too polite. Anyway, I don't want this kid to return to Qianyuanzong. Martial Uncle understands what I mean, right? Zhou Guangzong's tone suddenly turned cold. Haha, don't worry, this kid will definitely not come back. As long as I am alive, he will never be allowed to step into the Qianyuan Great Master. No, he will never be allowed to walk out of the Spirit Stone's mine alive. Cheng Kui laughed, confidence said full. Okay, I feel at ease with Master Cheng's words. Zhou Guangzong nodded in satisfaction. After a pause, he continued to add, don't worry, Master Uncle, I will definitely speak for you in front of Grandpa. If there is any good thing, you must be a part of it. Zhou Guangzong thought he was doing a good job of winning people's hearts. Cheng Kui was obedient and still able to do things, so he naturally wanted to comfort him and give him some sweet dates. Cheng Kui was overjoyed when he heard the words, Nephew Great Master, I feel relieved with your words. Then, the two talked about other things. Afterwards, Zhou Guangzong bid farewell to Cheng Kui, turned and left, and walked towards the distance. Seeing Zhou Guangzong's back gradually receding, a venomous look flashed in Cheng Kui's eyes, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. HMPH, Xu Yufan, for my future, I can only use you as a stepping stone, I hope you don't want to see me again in the next life. Offend people who shouldn't be offended. As soon as Xu Yufan returned to Immortal Cave, Chen Tian came before his ass sat down. This once again frightened Xu Yufan enough. Why is this guy always so elusive? Even the lost array couldn't stop him, it can be seen that Chen. How strong is the sky? Ahem, senior brother Chen Tian, can you call out and show up again next time? Please, no one can stand your scare like this. Xu Yufan said with a bitter face. Junior brother, as the saying goes, if you don't do anything wrong, you won't be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. Junior brother, you have done too many unreasonable things. Quote. A pair of Chen Tian. I said with an understanding expression. Xu Yufan almost sprayed out a mouthful of old blood. This is the proverb of the earth, do you understand it? Hee, junior brother, I'm just joking, I must say hello to you next time before showing up. Seeing Xu Yufan's appearance, Chen Tian chuckled. Xu Yufan finally breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that, if he always appeared suddenly like this, he would always find out about the world. By the way, senior brother Chen, you came to see me this time because you got wind again? Xu Yufan asked with a straight face. Every time Chen Tian appeared, there was important news for him, this time it came so fast, there must be some bad news. However, Chen Tian shook his head. No, this time I came here mainly to ask about your exile. Xu Yufan rolled his eyes. This Chen Tian is very well informed. He just came back from Chengkui. He knew that he was exiled to the Spirit Stone's mine for a year. Senior brother Chen, you are really well informed. I just found out about it myself. You actually know about my exile. Brother Chen is really in admiration. Xu Yufan curled his lips, showing admiration. Junior brother, why don't you resist? Last time you faced Cheng Kui, you really impressed me. Chen Tian joked. Brother was joking. This is sect's decision. What's the use of calling him stubborn? You really think so? Chen Tian looked at Xu Yufan with a half smile. Immediately, Xu Yufan was seen through by Chen Tian as if he had no clothes on. Xu Yufan's tone faltered, and he said, it's easy to hide from the open gun, but hard to defend against the hidden arrow. It's better to face it directly than to worry about it in the sect. Oh, so the younger brother has the confidence to face all the intrigues of the Spirit Stone's mine. Count, that's right, relying on the ability of the younger brother, not to mention killing all the opponents, there is still more than enough power to protect himself. Quote. Chen Tian seemed to remember that Xu Yufan returned to sect safely in the face of the Monkey King, and his face relaxed for a while. Xu Yufan's heart moved, and he made a bitter melon look. Senior brother Chen, you think highly of me. I have no ability to protect myself. I have 8 levels of qi refining, and I don't have any powerful attack spells on me. Sect spells are useless. And he doesn't even have a low-grade magical item on him. How can he protect himself? Quote. This is very clear. It means Own is very weak and has no fighting power. Please help me quickly. Of course Chen Tian understood the meaning of the words, but still pretended not to understand. Junior brother, let's just say that you were able to escape from the Monkey King during the Foundation establishment period. How can you say it is so embarrassing? Seeing that Chen Tian was not fooled, Xu Yufan had no choice but to say clearly, Senior brother Chen, my strength is indeed a bit low. I don't have many magical items on me, and my attack methods are poor. I don't know if brother Chen has any suitable magical items and spells for me. You know, if I fall in the Spirit Stone's mine, brother Back Mountain will have to find someone else. Quote. What Xu Yufan said was very sincere, of course, except for the threatening sentence at the end. After hearing this, Chen Tian was not angry, but became serious in thought. After a long while, Chen Tian nodded approvingly. The younger brother's words make sense. If there is any trouble in the Spirit Stone's mine, the matter in the Back Mountain will be shelved. There are quite a few cultivation techniques, but they are not suitable for your cultivation. Let me think. As he spoke, Chen Tian frowned. Xu Yufan was overjoyed. It seems there is something interesting. As soon as he thought this way, Chen Tian's eyes lit up, as if he had found it. Sure enough, he slapped the storage bag, and a tiny mesh-shaped object appeared out of thin air in his hand. I happen to have a piece of magic treasures here, called the Skynet. It's useless if you're idle, so I'll give it to you. What? Magic treasures? Hey, brother, can I use magic treasures during the qi refining period? Xu Yufan revealed a helpless look. Brother, have you forgotten my cultivation base realm? Chen Tian suddenly realized that using magic treasures requires at least the Foundation Establishment late stage. Not even the Foundation Establishment middle stage can control magic treasures. It's because I didn't think carefully. After Chen Tian finished speaking, he was about to take back the sky net. Xu Yufan snatched it quickly with quick eyesight. Brother, I'll keep it for later. Chen Tian also stopped. He thought for a while, and took out a stepping talisman. Xu Yufan stared, his eyes sparkling. With these talismans, who are you afraid of? Back then, Lin Weixia had personally experienced the power of intermediate-level talismans. However, Chen Tian took out one of them, and put the rest back into the storage bag. Junior brother, this is an Earth Escape talisman, which can be used 5 times, and each time it can escape tens of miles away. Generally, cultivators from the early stages of Foundation establishment cannot catch up with you. Moreover, this Earth Escape talisman does not consume much magic power, so the senior brother gave it to you to save your life. Quote. Xu Yufan took the Earth Escape talisman and looked at Chen Tian eagerly. Senior brother Chen, you have a stack of talismans, can you give me a few more? Chen Tian shook his head. The Earth Escape Talisman can be used 5 times. It is enough for you to escape. You also know that the talisman magical item, after all, is a foreign object, giving you too much, which is not conducive to your practice. Quote. What Chen Tian said was serious. No. Brother, why do you keep a stack? Isn't it bad for cultivation? Ah, Chen Tian was taken aback for a moment, and said, I'm different from you. Xu Yufan rolled his eyes, and muttered, what's the difference, you're just a cultivation world's boss. Ah, junior brother, what is Joe Poppy? Chen Tian asked curiously. Ah, do you mean to praise people? Praise? Xu Yufan nodded, and said with a serious face, yes, skinning means great kindness. In my hometown, all those who are kind and generous are called Poppy. Quote. Haha, I like this word, so I'm also skinny. Chen Tian laughed out loud, seemingly extremely happy. Yes, you are Chen Poppy. Xu Yufan held back his laughter, talking nonsense in a serious manner. Okay, junior brother, I wish you good luck, and see you in a year. Chen Tian patted Xu Yufan's shoulder, turned and left. Seeing Chen Tian's back disappearing from sight, Xu Yufan's expression finally couldn't hold back, and he broke into a big grin. Chen Baopi, you are a very kind person. However, Chen Tian, who had just disappeared, suddenly reappeared in front of Xu Yufan, and Xu Yufan was frightened. Xu Yufan took a big step towards retreat. By the way, Junior, there is another temporary market 20 miles away from Sect, which opens once a month. Tomorrow happens to be the opening day of the market. If you need it, you can come and have a look. Quote. Saying that, Chen Tian's figure disappeared again, and Xu Yufan looked in the direction of Chen Tian's departure in horror. I am more determined in my heart to create a formation that even the Golden Core environment cannot enter and exit at will. Xu Yufan finally sat in the immortal cave for another half an hour, during which no one disturbed him. Thinking that Chen Tian would never come again, he raised his hand and gave himself a slap, entering the Great Thousand World. Jerry was sleeping and practicing, and the mouse had to sleep for most of the day after taking the chi refining pill. Vajra was not sitting on the branch. Xu Yufan glanced at it, and saw a white-haired monster swaying in the medicine garden over there. Then I knew it was Vajra. Thinking of the silver snake gall planted last time, Xu Yufan walked over. Hearing the sound, Vajra didn't look up, and continued to play with the medicinal herbs in the medicine garden. Since Xu Yufan asked Vajra to plant silver snake gallbladder in the medicine garden last time, this bloody white ape king seemed to have opened the door to a new world, and was completely obsessed with planting and cultivating medicinal herbs. Perhaps because of talent who is outstanding in this area, Vajra really manages the medicine garden in an orderly manner. Under the care of Vajra, the current medicine garden has taken on a new look, which is completely different from when Xu Yufan planted it randomly. Xiao Jin, you didn't torment the silver snake gall to death, did you? Xu Yufan squatted beside him and asked. Don't worry, under my care, it has grown again, and the age has broken through for 100 years. After finishing speaking, Vajra turned to look at Xu Yufan, and suddenly exclaimed, Huh! Boss, when did you come in? Xu Yufan rolled his eyes. Vajra scratched his head and smiled honestly. You don't know how long I've been here. I've been standing here for a long time. Xu Yufan said with a curled lip. Vajra glanced at Xu Yufan, and said with a chuckle, these medicinal herbs are so fascinating, I was fascinated for a while, I really don't know when the boss came in. Looks like I have to call you Jin Yaoshi instead. Xu Yufan shook his head helplessly. Okay, let me take a look at that silver snake gall. Xu Yufan walked towards the corner of the medicine garden. Vajra, on the other hand, froze in place, muttering, Golden Pharmacist. Golden Pharmacist, that's a good nickname. Xu Yufan ignored Vajra and walked to the medicine garden. Looking carefully at the corner, this silver snake gut has grown a lot taller than before, and the color is more vivid. Tisk tisk, this great world is really amazing. This silver snake gut is more than 100 years old. Xu Yufan smacked his lips, his eyes sparkling. Xu Yufan looked at the other medicinal herbs in the medicine garden again, and found that besides this silver snake gall, there are many medicinal herbs that are more than 100 years old. Among them are 7 saplings and 2 unknown medicinal herbs. Thinking of going to the temporary market tomorrow, he might need to use a lot of chi refining pills, so he reached out to pull out the 7 bridling sprouts. As soon as a plant was pulled, Vajra came over. "Boss, you don't need to do it, I will help you." Shu Yufan was taken aback, then smiled and said, "Pull out spiritual herbs and ask for your help. Do you really think I'm disabled?" Vajra laughed straight away, looking flattering. "Boss, you usually practice hard, you take this opportunity to rest, I'll come." As Vajra said, he picked up a golden stick and began to dig the spirit bud grass. "It's not like you, wait, do you need my help?" Shu Yufan stared at Vajra. "Ahem, boss, don't I just watch boss work hard?" Shu Yufan rolled his eyes. "Come on, hurry up. Boss, look, there are only a few kinds of elixir in our medicine garden, and I'm really bored to grow them. So I want to ask the boss to help me get some spiritual herb seeds." Vajra smiled and said the purpose of own. The corner of Shu Yufan's mouth twitched when he heard this. "Okay, I'm going to Fengshi tomorrow, and I'll buy you some spiritual herb seeds then." Shu Yufan nodded in agreement. Real, Vajra was overjoyed immediately, he was really depressed to death during this time. "Boss is so nice." As he said that, Vajra was about to punch Shu Yufan. Shu Yufan hurriedly dodged and said, "Okay, there is a difference between humans and animals, so don't move." Suddenly, Shu Yufan saw the golden stick in Vajra's hand and shouted, "You use it as a tool for digging." "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" Vajra asked in bewilderment. "Is this the stick you snatched from the Monkey King?" Shu Yufan pointed to the stick in Vajra's hand and said. Vajra nodded. "Well, it's the monkey's." Shu Yufan rolled his eyes. "That's a treasure, and you actually used it to dig the ground, what an outrage." Vajra smiled awkwardly, and explained, "I think this stick is quite suitable for digging, just try the feel, hee. Bah, this is the first time I've seen demonic beasts digging with this thing." Shu Yufan sneered. "Or, give it to you, boss," Vajra said, handing the long stick in his hand to Shu Yufan. "Get out, keep it for yourself." Shu Yufan rejected Vajra's offer. "Okay, let's play by yourself. I'll sort out those useless things and sell them at the temporary market tomorrow to see if I can get some powerful talismans and magical items. The number of own Vajra talismans was exhausted last time, so I need to add some defensive talismans." As Shu Yufan said, he came to the pill refining room where the storage bags were stored, and began to sort out magical items and sundries. Early the next morning, Shu Yufan came out of the Great Thousand World and headed straight for the mountain gate. However, when he showed the own nameplate to the guarding disciple, he was blocked by the other party. "Sorry, junior brother, you can't leave sect right now," the mountain guard disciple on the 10th floor of Chi Refining said to Shu Yufan. Shu Yufan frowned and asked, "Why? Isn't the inner discipline who has reached the 7th level of Chi Refining can freely enter and exit the sect?" This is explained by Cheng Deacon, saying that you will be sent to the Spirit Stone's mine for a year, and you will be leaving in 2 days, so you can't leave sect at will. The mountain guard disciple said in a flat tone. Shu Yufan frowned, it seemed that the other party was afraid of running away. Just as he was thinking about how to leave, he heard a voice from behind. "Let him out." Shu Yufan looked back, only to find a silver-haired old man in black standing not far away. This old man is none other than Sun Liancheng. Seeing this, Shu Yufan hurriedly bowed his cupped hands and said, "The disciple has met Sun Elder." "Meet Sun Elder." The disciples guarding the mountain also saluted one after another. Sun Liancheng waved his hand, his gaze stayed on Shu Yufan for half a second, and then turned into a white light and rushed out of the mountain gate. Shu Yufan curled his lips. "It's still a cultivator during the Foundation establishment period, you can fly freely." As he said that, he turned his head and said to the disciple of Shoshin, "This brother, can I leave?" Quote, "Well, that's natural." After the disciple guarding the mountain finished speaking, Shu Yufan was not polite, turned his strength and ran away quickly. After Shu Yufan disappeared from sight, the disciple who guarded the mountain turned and left. After 2 sticks of incense, Shu Yufan came to the temporary square market that Chen Tian said with his face mask on. This temporary square city is located on a small mountain peak, and the top of the mountain peak is a large flat. It doesn't look like a natural formation, but it looks like a flat ground carved out by someone with a sword. The dapping is decorated with formations, and a light blue halo covers the entire dapping. In front of the halo, there are 2 cultivators guarding it. Shu Yufan stepped forward and bowed his cupped hands respectfully. 2 fellow Taoists, do you dare to ask if there is a temporary market inside? The 2 disciples guarding the mountain looked up, and one of them immediately nodded and said, yes, this is the temporary market. If you want to participate, you can enter after paying 3 low-grade spirit stones. $3. Shu Yufan frowned slightly, and muttered in his heart, Daddy's monthly salary is only 50 yuan for low-grade spirit stones, and the entrance fee is 3 yuan for spirit stones, it's really stupid. Although he was cursing in his heart, Shu Yufan still took out the 3 cheap items from the storage bag on his waist, handed them to the cultivator at the gate, and said, trouble fellow Taoist. Well, the fellow Taoist can enter. The cultivator took the spirit stones and put them in the storage bag. Thank you fellow Taoist. Shu Yufan arched his cupped hands. You're welcome, let's go in quickly. After the cultivator finished speaking, he waved his hand to let Shu Yufan in. Entering the temporary square market, Shu Yufan looked around, and saw that there was an endless stream of cultivators in the square city, crowded with people and bustling, and all kinds of goods were placed on both sides of the road. Each stall owner sells different things, such as magical item medicine pill, spiritual herbs cultivation technique, talisman materials and so on. As Shu Yufan walked slowly, he checked the items on the stalls on both sides to see if he could find something good. Hey, fellow Taoist, come and have a look. There are all kinds of pills here, which can heal wounds and detoxify, strengthen the waist and nourish the kidneys, refresh the brain and refresh the mind. They are very suitable for disciples in the qi refining period. Yufan has a bad taste in the cold, how can the cultivator use these? Isn't this nonsense? This fellow Taoist, I'm afraid you came to the wrong place to set up a stall. Shu Yufan said with a smile, and continued to look for things he liked. Although there are many people setting up stalls, there are no good things. Shu Yufan shopped around for a long time but didn't find anything he liked. At this moment, a loud voice suddenly came from the front. Shu Yufan turned around and saw a group of cultivators in white robes surrounding a booth in front of him. Shu Yufan looked at the group of people suspiciously, and leaned over curiously. In the center of the crowd was a stall made of yellow cloth. The stall owner was a man wearing a purple cloak. The man's face was covered by the cloak, so he couldn't see clearly. On the booth in front of the cloaked man, 4 stacks of talismans were neatly placed. Each stack has a different color, and it seems that the spells sealed inside are different. Shu Yufan took a few glances and was puzzled. Isn't it just a stall selling talismans, so what's there to watch? Is this stall owner stupid? He doesn't know how to sell the talismans separately. Yes, they are all low-level talismans, who wants so many at once? That's right, isn't this a disease? Everyone was discussing and guessing the price of the spell. While everyone was talking, the cloaked man remained silent. Fellow Taoist, I'll buy 4 talismans with you, you really don't think about it? A masked man said to the cloaked man. Sorry, as I said, I won't sell these talismans separately. If you want to buy them all together, the cloaked man said coldly. I can get 2 more spirit stones for each one, said the masked man. No, the cloaked man said firmly, 10 low-grade spirit stones and 1 talisman, if you want to buy them, buy all 40 of them. Then there is no other way. The masked man said regretfully. 40 talismans, that is 400 low-grade spirit stones, which is a huge sum of money. Who the hell would spend $400 on low-tier spirit stones to buy a bunch of talismans? Isn't it good to have this spirit stones to buy qi refining pills to improve your self-cultivation base? Although Shu Yufan felt that these talismans were very expensive, but to have such confidence, it must be that he was very confident in owning the talismans. The cultivators' onlookers turned and left one after another. After all, they were all cultivators in the qi refining period. Except for their deep background, no one could get out 400 low-grade spirit stones at once. Waiting for people to leave, Shu Yufan thought for a while, and Shu stepped forward to the man in the cloak and said, Fellow Taoist, I wonder how powerful this talisman is. Hearing this, the cloaked man raised his head and said, Do you want to buy a talisman? Yeah, Shu Yufan nodded slightly, and said, but first I need to know what kind of talismans these are, and how powerful are they? If it is suitable, I will ask for it below. Quote, the man in the cloak remained silent for a while, as if he was considering the truth of Shu Yufan's words. These 4 stacks of talismans are Quick Step Talisman, Explosion Talisman, Wooden Shield Talisman, and Frozen Talisman. The cloaked man said, after casting the Quick Step Talisman, it can instantly double the movement speed. The effect is excellent, but it lasts for a short time. Only it takes half a stick of incense, and magic power support is needed during the period. Quote, the Explosion Talisman is a fire attribute talisman. It can be used to generate a burst of flames. It is extremely powerful and can burn any target within a radius of 100 meters. The Frozen Talisman is an ice attribute talisman, which is extremely powerful. It can freeze any living thing within a radius of 100 meters, and can freeze the body of a living thing instantly. The last wooden shield symbol is a wood attribute talisman, which is a defensive spell. After using it, a thick defensive shield will be condensed around the body to resist the surrounding attacks. At least it can block the full blow of the 10th level of chi refining. But the duration is not long. Ordinary fighting methods can last for about a stick of incense, but if you use the 10th level of chi refining to hit with all your strength, you can only hit 1 blow. Quote, after listening to the man in the cloak's introduction, Shu Yufan had a clear understanding. The power of these talismans is somewhat stronger than ordinary low-level talismans. Especially the wooden shield talisman, which was able to resist a full blow from the 10th level of chi refining. This is definitely a good thing. So, expensive is expensive for a reason. The fellow Taoist's words are false. Shu Yufan looked at the cloaked man and asked. These words seemed to anger the man in the cloak. He said in a cold voice, if you don't believe me, fellow Taoist, just try it, you can see the effect of this talisman naturally. Now, if you don't believe me, leave here as soon as possible, so as not to cause trouble for me. Quote, since the fellow Taoist has said so, there is no need to experiment, I will take all of them. Shu Yufan glanced at the cloaked man and said with a smile. Do you really want to buy them all? The man in the cloak was taken aback, apparently shocked by Shu Yufan's words. Naturally, Shu Yufan said with a smile, directly took out 4 middle-grade spirit stones from his bosom, threw them to the man in the cloak, and said, I want all these spirit talismans from the fellow Taoist. After the man in the cloak took over the spirit stones, he was still at a loss, completely different from his previous indifference. Apparently, Shu Yufan didn't expect Shu Yufan to be so forthright, saying that he would really buy all of them. After a while, the man in the cloak put the 4 middle-grade spirit stones in his arms, reached out and handed the 4 stacks of talismans to Shu Yufan, saying, these 40 talismans belong to fellow Taoist. As soon as Shu Yufan rolled it in his hand, he put the 40 talismans into the storage bag. Turning around and about to leave, the man in the cloak said, fellow Taoist, wait a minute. Shu Yufan stopped in his tracks, turned around and asked, what? Did the fellow Taoist go back on his word? How could it be? The man in the cloak shook his head quickly, and said, I have something to discuss with the fellow Taoist, would the fellow Taoist be willing to listen? Shu Yufan thought for a while and said, yes. The man in the cloak approached Shu Yufan, casually cast a formation to isolate the sound, and then said, I think a fellow Taoist is generous and has such courage, he must be a rich and powerful person, so I want to have a fight with a fellow Taoist. Deal? Shu Yufan asked, what deal does the fellow Taoist want? The man in the cloak took out a golden talisman from his arms. Do fellow Taoist know what kind of talisman this is? Shu Yufan took a careful look at the golden talisman, then shook his head, expressing that he didn't recognize it. The man in the cloak continued. This is a middle-level attack talisman. The sword talisman. Intermediate attack talisman. Shu Yufan glanced at the golden talisman in surprise. This golden talisman exudes a strange light, and the pattern on the surface of the talisman is a bit like a sword shape, but these patterns are combined by runes, which looks very complicated. That's right, this imperial sword talisman is extremely powerful, and it can be used at a distance of 100 meters. In addition, instantly kill the cultivator in the chi refining stage. Even a cultivator of the foundation establishment early stage can be wounded or even killed. And this Yujian talisman can not only be used once, but as many as 5 times. However, the magic power required by this talisman is also extremely large. The ordinary 10th layer of qi refining can barely be used twice, and the cultivator of the 7th or 8th layer of qi refining stage can only be used once at most, and the magic power will be exhausted. Quote, hearing Xu Yufan's heart skipped a beat. This Yujian talisman is too strong. In the Chaos Continent, talismans are divided into 3 categories. Temporarily attack the talisman. Second, the defensive talisman. The third is auxiliary talisman. Among them, the price of auxiliary talismans is the lowest, and the price of defensive talismans is comparable to that of attack talismans. All talismans have a total of 4 grades, namely low level, middle level, high level and top level 4 levels. At the same time, it is divided into one-time talisman and multiple talisman. One-time talismans can only be used once. For example, the 40 pieces that Xu Yufan bought just now in Lin Weixia's intermediate talisman Falling Stone belong to this kind. The Vajra talisman obtained from Gao Zhuang and the sword talisman sold to him by the man in the cloak are multi-dimensional talismans. This sword-controlling talisman is not only a multiple offensive talisman, but also able to kill the talisman of the foundation establishment early stage, which is really hard for him to refuse. Now that Xu Yufan lacks powerful attack means, this imperial sword talisman can just make up for the lack of own attack means. Fellow Taoist wants to sell this imperial sword talisman to me. Xu Yufan asked calmly. Exactly. The cloaked man nodded. Oh, that's it. Then how much does the fellow Taoist want to sell to me? Xu Yufan asked. Later, he added, if the fellow Taoist's asking price is too high, I can't afford it. No, absolutely not. The man in the cloak quickly vetoed. Don't worry, fellow Taoist, I'm not the kind of person who talks like a lion. Xu Yufan glanced at the man in the cloak, squinted his eyes and said, since the fellow Taoist is so sincere, then don't be verbose, just tell me, how many spirit stones is the fellow Taoist going to sell? The man in the cloak didn't answer immediately, but lowered his head to think. Xu Yufan didn't rush him, just looked at him like this. The man in the cloak seemed to be struggling, and after a long time, he raised his head again and said to Xu Yufan. 5,000 low-grade spirit stones. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.